And first of all, I want to thank Al Ayman, the best manager in the world.
He's the fucking champion of the world! Miguel, man!
Adonis Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Rosado, good boy. Rosado is a good boy.
I've become a massive international superstar. It's as simple as that.
I eat your asshole alive, you bitch! Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me. Derek, who down?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 398th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings and joining me on the call we have rapping Rob Kelly and Andy Patterson phoning in off location. Ozzy Smith is here with us as well. A little bit of an old school intro I dug up for you there. Hopefully you enjoyed that if you haven't heard it before. And for the old school people who've been with us from day one, you'll know and love that one. It's right up there with Bellew of the Weeks, isn't it? Going live on YouTube anyway, 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everybody listening through the week, whether you're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening in. Don't forget to leave a review of the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of, where are we now? Into November. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Ozzy's with us here. First of all, Ozzy, let's just check on your welfare, shall we? How are you indeed? Are you keeping well this Sunday evening?
Very well, mate. A couple of Stellas in the fridge. One now sat next to me. All set for an entertaining couple of hours.
Absolutely. We'll be talking nonsense for the next couple of hours or nearest offer. Stellas are in the fridge, Ozzy. No stellar performances to be found over in the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Devin Haney headlining WBC World Lightweight title. This fella's going to end up with about 15 world titles, never having fought anybody at this rate. Went in against Ortiz Gamboa. Finally, a decent, recognisable name, even though this guy's too high in weight. We've seen better days. At least Haney's actually starting to fight somebody now. What did you think of the fight itself? Then did Haney pretty much do what you expected him to do? Did you expect him to go out there in the later rounds and try and put Gamboa away, given that Gervonta Davis had obviously got into the 12th round with him? What were your expectations and what did what were the conclusions of this fight for you?
I felt we didn't really learn much more about Devin Haney. I thought it was skillful, but largely boring. It wasn't entertaining. It was levels and levels above. It was an opponent that was never really going to cause any problems. As you said, Steve, this is a guy that's operating 2 weights above. The last time we saw him, he got bashed up off Gervonta Davis, did go to the 12th round. So unless, Haney was going to blast him out there in a couple of rounds, which for me would have been a statement, he clearly didn't do that. I mean, I revert back to when, Davis went 12 rounds with him. You've got Haney now, who's gone 12 rounds and gone on points. You refer back to Terence Crawford, who completely outclassed Gamboa. I'm not saying that Haney and Davis didn't, but Crawford did it in, another way. And you could tell that's the difference of elite level. Haney, you look at that performance, and his stock has probably, not being too critical, but has probably dropped more than anything. After the 2 magnificent performances from Teofimo Lopez and Gervonta Davis, you've got Devin Haney now, with somewhat a bit of pressure potentially, to impress off the back of 2 rival performances and big rivals as well. And it just wasn't all that for me. Levels above, box well, but boring, really boring. And needs to step up in the levels. Not from the fact that, Gamboa is a step up from what he's been boxing, but that wasn't hard whatsoever. That really wasn't hard. James Tennyson would be a step up for Devin Haney for the quality he's been in with, if you get my drift at the moment. So I want to see the big fights for him. Look, himself and his promotional team have come out and said they want the big fights, so let's make them happen. None of this bullshit, like people getting in the way. You want them, go and make them. Because for me, with all the talk, Haney needs it. You do forget he's only 21. He is young, and I've no doubt he will go on to be a very, very good fighter. But at the moment, I just think he's behind the likes of Davis and Lopez, particularly judging off last night's performance.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do next with Devin Haney. Hopefully James Tennyson won't be on the line. But as big a fan of Tenny as I am, I think we saw what happened against Tevin Farmer. Eddie might try and make something like that, though. Let's give a shout out to some of the guys in the chat just before we get rumbling. Leon the Canteen is hanging around in there, as always. Maybe the prison canteen. Boxing's first. That's our friend Dave. Go and give him a follow. James Tapner, Joe Kennedy, Toby Hines. Good to see you in there, Toby. Liam Wins over on Facebook as well. Jim McDonald. He's ripping it up over on his channel, his gym, putting up the videos from the cobbles of Coronation Street. Rob Barnett is with us. Paul Raftery, Tosh Bear. Let's give as many as we can a shout out here. James Windsor. Take Ames, good lad himself. Coogan's Waterbill. Ben Thorns. Ian Wigley. Hope I'm not missing anybody out here. Richard Wetton, looking well over there. DJ T, 1785. Might be Donny Baseball there. Who knows? Hopefully we'll get Donny back on at some point. Michael Thompson, Marty Smith. Oh, they're starting to repeat themselves now, aren't they? All the contenders, Matthew Russell, John Wayne. That'll do for now, won't it? I think that shall do, Andy. Coming on to you, actually. I saw a tweet just before we went live from Jack Price. He said, could this be our generation's four kings? I'm not saying they'll ever be on their level, ability or greatness-wise, but we've got four super talented young stars here with huge potential. The fights that can be made over the years are exciting as hell. #boxing. So you got Devin Haney in action last night, Ryan Garcia coming up soon, Gervonta Davis in action last week, and obviously Teofimo in action a couple of weeks ago. They're all fighting in and around each other, which is good because we can make comparisons, Andy. Do you think this could be the new... I mean, we could easily say, couldn't we? They're no Duran, they're no Robinson, they're no Hagler, no Hearns, but boxing has to move on. Life has to move on. And the fact that these 2-4 guys are in and around the same weights at the moment, I know some are bigger and smaller than the others, it could be a sort of Four Kings light era, Andy.
Hey, mate, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, sorry, can you go back for 2 seconds?
Absolutely. While we're waiting for you to come back, Andy, I'll say Babs, who actually retweeted this, quote tweeted it. He said, knowing boxing, Andy, Lopez will get beaten at 147 by a 38-year-old Crawford. Haney will headline versus Lewis Ritson on Sky Sports box office. Yeah. Ryan Garcia will end up in a Disney movie and Tank will move up to middleweight out of sheer laziness. There you go.
Yeah, actually, I was feeling a wee bit depressed today, actually, when he tweeted that one out, actually. Yeah, well, I take the point. Look, we've got changes in the guard, so to speak. We've got 4 young fighters coming through. But you talk about 4 kings and stuff, you know, when they guys fought, they were all by that point actual, you know, established champions in their own rights. Duran had his own career by that point at lightweight. Leonard was like the golden star. Hagler, middleweight dominance, and Hearns was just going through the divisions until he met Leonard. At the end of the day, I keep Babs his comment as well. You know, Haney needs to step up the class now. Really needs to step up the class. Davis, I heard it last week. You know, he knocked out a smaller guy. I take that point as well as I did say that Davis is probably not going to take the big challenges as such because I think they're really forcing that guy down the pay-per-view route. They're trying to make a star out of him, and I think all the actual, you know, proof actually kind of like points towards that. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Davis next as well. Garcia, he's not to fight a proper lightweight. He's going to be fighting one shortly. Again, no sold on the kid. I think he leaves his chin up there. He needs to basically, let's say, just step up class. We'll see how he does against Campbell. Lopez, for me, is the man just now. Again, I don't think he will be at 135 for much longer, if at all, for his next fight, which is going to be a shame. But you know, talk of the 4 kings and stuff, that's something I think can only be put toward them probably in the next 5 to 8 years, so to speak, just to see where they're at, because it's not about legacy and being great fighters anymore. I think it's all about the money, which is fair enough, you know. But as I say, the proof is going to be in the pudding when they actually step up in class, fight either they need to fight each other. That is the main thing. But obviously you've got the issues with the TV deals. You've got Floyd talking about A sides now for Davis and that as well. So you can foresee the problems we're going to have here to try and make these fights. You need to remember as well as Leonard against Hearns one was made in 20 minutes in an airport between Manny Stewart and Mike Trainer. 20 minutes that deal was done and dusted in an airport cafe, and the guys went back home in the same planes they arrived in. You know, these fights we're talking about here, Haney, Lopez, Garcia, Davis, and Garcia, you know, just talking the talk. You know, end of the day is if they really want the fights and stuff, managers manage, promoters promote, but the fighters fight. The fighters want the fight. They say to the managers and the promoters, "I want him, and I want him now or next." So I think it's been today, guys. But talk about the four kings is way premature.
Yeah, F Google says more like the four queens. Hopefully, at least a couple of them do end up fighting each other, and the talent's there for them to be fighting each other on a regular basis. Rapping Rod Kelly, you're a fan of the old Floyd expression, up and down with no special effects. That was a little bit of Haney last night. On a plus point for him. He's very quick. Those long arms going to give anybody trouble. That jab and everything, you know, was really banging back Gamboa's head. This is a good fighter, but he just didn't have that sparkle factor for me, Rob.
Yeah, I think he's in a bad position, Haney, compared to the rest of them. Who was that? What network showed that fight last night in the States?
DAZN.
It was DAZN, wasn't it? So DAZN are on their fucking way out, like. So unless he makes the jump, I think to Uncle Al. Yeah, exactly. Unless he makes the jump to Uncle Al or fucking Bob Arum, he's not going to be getting these fights. Like, I mean, that's another thing. He was kind of managing himself, wasn't he, for the first couple of years when he was 17, him and the dad. Then they've made the move to go to Eddie. That DAZN deal is after proven to be a fucking disaster. Canelo's out of the zone, so that's going to have a knock-on effect down the chain. I don't think there's going to be big money there for Haney. And I just think he's bottom of the pecking order. I spoke about this last week. I think out of the four names mentioned there, he's bottom of the pecking order, just behind Ryan Garcia. Both of them haven't fucking fought anyone, but Garcia is more entertaining in the knockouts that he has had. Was it Pedraza or Fonseca or someone that he absolutely fucking blitzed with a left hook?
Fonseca.
So, yeah, Fonseca, yeah. So Fonseca's a decent operator. He could probably say Gamboa is obviously a better win, but Garcia's done it looking better and he's got a bigger fan base. So Haney is firmly bottom of the line, and some of the shit that he's coming out with is turning people off him. Like he's been on a campaign for the last couple of weeks to try and convince people that he's the real world champion because Teofimo Lopez won the franchise championship. Yeah, asshole. But the real champion got upgraded to fucking franchise champion for that to happen in the first place. Hence you getting delivered that mail. It's like he has a bad case of amnesia or something that he hasn't woke up for, and people need to keep reminding him that he hasn't won the title in the ring. So I think, look, he can't do anything about that. He could probably address it in a different situation. Say, look, I don't feel like I'm a world champion until I win something in the ring. I don't want anyone to hand me anything. That might endear him a little bit more to fans. I remember even Nathan Cleverly did that back in the day when they gave him a WBA title. He said he didn't feel like a champion until he actually won it in the ring. Like, so Haney, style-wise, he's good. He's not too exciting. He's awkward. He's learning on the job. But yeah, I think he's firmly behind those ones. I think, the difference between him and Teofimo Lopez in a couple of fights, Lopez basically fucking blitzed everybody in his competition on the way to Lomachenko, talked a good game, and then backed it up. And so far, all we've really seen from Devin Haney is a lot of talk, and even that hasn't been that entertaining. So, I'm not going to fucking put any mortgages on Devin Haney becoming a big star of the sport anytime soon. I'd like to see him do well. I think he is a good fighter, and like you said, we need to see these guys fight each other now rather than go down different paths. But he's in the Who Wants Him club, really, because he's bringing nothing to the table apart from a belt that he got in the post. So those other three guys have better options than Devin Haney.
Yeah, Haney, Garcia, Lopez, and Davis. We'll see how they all get on against each other. Just before we move on to the undercard, I want to give a shout out. We give a shout out now and again to people, don't we? A shout out to our friends over at Undisputed Champion Nutrition, UC Nutrition. These boys doing some good work over there, keeping people ship shape during lockdown. They have a giveaway at the moment, so I said I'd give a good shout out to them over on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram.com/RealUCN, Facebook.com/Undisputed Champ Nutrition. There's a giveaway at the moment, £60 worth of sports supplements. I'll tell you who could have done with that giveaway, Aussie. Our friend Rydell Booker. He could have done with a few sports supplements to get himself into shape, I think. Because this guy, I'm going to call him Booker Bean on the undercard against Filip Hrgovic. Have you ever seen, what's he doing coming in this type of shape for a start? And as for Hrgovic, he was 1-2, wasn't he, all night? What would you make of this heavyweight fight?
Shite, mate. Absolutely shite. You've got Hrgovic calling at the likes of Dubois, Joyce, White, Chisora after it. Yeah, why the fuck? What if Hrgovic is so good? Why the fuck is he wasting his time in the likes of Rydell Booker, who came in completely out of shape, fat slob. You know, basically, this should not have been sanctioned. I mean, the stoppage for a start was a joke. It was an absolute. It shouldn't have been stopped. Fair enough. Like Booker was nowhere near winning or anything like that. But I mean, Booker blocked 2 shots and the referee just stepped in. To be fair, he did everybody a favour and just got the fight finished. But it was a horrendous piece of officiating. But fuck me, it was crap. I'm not sold on Hrgovic at the moment. I don't know if it's just because, you know, the calibre of opponent he's in with. But he's very stiff, he's very upright, and he's quite predictable. And I do wonder how he'll react when he actually basically takes a shot. I mean, look, I refuse to dub somebody who's 28 and had 12 fights a prospect. It's not as if, you know, he's 19, 20, you know, and he's coming through the ranks. I mean, I'm looking at his record now. Look, he bashed up Eric Molina. You can argue someone like Amir Mansour's probably his best win type of thing. Molina's crap. I mean, we've seen what he can do, which is not a right lot. Fucking, it says it all, Steve. Sean Big Sexy Turner's been giving him his toughest fight. You know, where he put it on him. He didn't really do any damage, but, you know, he took some, I think Big Sexy won, you know, 2 or 3 rounds off Hrgovic. So, I mean, look, he badly needs a step up, badly. And I put a call on his promotional outfit here in Sauerland and Matchroom. They can talk all they want about, you know, oh, we'll fight Daniel Dubois next. That's not going to happen. And you can eliminate that thought immediately. Why talk about, you know, a cross-promotional fight when that is not going to happen? Hrgovic, as Rob said, like Haney, Hrgovic is in the who needs him club. Similar to Martin Bakole. Hrgovic does nothing. He's not well known. No one will pay to watch him. So what's the point of him? They've got to build him. They should be looking to build. I know it's difficult at the moment because you can't, you know, you can't go anywhere, but they should be looking to build him in a country where you can, you know, you can get money behind him, get tickets sold, get people interested in, you know, in watching him. But when you're fighting the likes of Rydell Booker, you put a picture of him up and it becomes a laughing stock. Booker was just a fat slob. And I mean, I see things after it, you know, like fucking Calla Sauerland. He did something James Toney couldn't do. James Toney was fucked at the time anyway, and then boxed Booker in 2003. So come on, like, don't refer back to something that happened like 17 years ago, I think it was. Like, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, well, Kubrat Pulev couldn't do that. Fine. But Pulev, I've always said Pulev is not a massive puncher anyway. It was just an appalling fight and something that Hrgovic should not be operating at this level anymore. He learned nothing from last night apart from getting a run out. He was under no threat. Booker was never going to cause any problems whatsoever. And if he's that good, he should not be fighting the likes of Rydell Booker. I've always said, someone like, there's enough heavyweights under the Matchroom banner who he could fight with. Chuck him in with that big Chinese guy, that Zhile Zhang, Martin Bakole type of thing. Gerald Washington would be a better fight. You know, there's loads of opponents you could get for him, and not the fucking likes of Rydell Booker. I've given it too much airtime already, but for me, if he's that good, they should be looking a lot better than what he was in with last night.
A couple of lads throwing a few super chats in here. Good to see them. Matthew Russell, friend of the pod, has thrown some in for us. Thank you for supporting the Asylum, Matthew. We do appreciate it. Also, Dave from Boxing's First has thrown in a question for you, Andy. What's your reaction to the WBC deciding to give the trainers of their champions a belt? Well, I suppose they're giving out belts to everybody else. They might as well give the trainers one. What do you think about that question from Boxing's First, Andy?
It's just predictable. I would just be interested to know how much they actually pay, how much sanction fees they need to charge for that belt. You know, it's actually quite weird because they've actually got it kind of shaped into kind of like a towel, the way it's kind of shaped and stuff, like the kind of leather and stuff. But it's just a piece of nonsense. It's just, again, it's a gimmick. It's if there's no money getting changed in hands, then it's clearly just promoting the brand, so to speak. I mean, I've never seen that belt before, apart from Lopez's dad. I've never seen that belt being issued to anyone else. You know, I dare say someone will remind us, you know, or tell us who or when this belt was initially issued, and that if that's not the first time, but it's just an absolute fraud, man. End of the day, is this Lopez Senior's like training his kid for like the early days and stuff. So why does he need a belt? End of the day, he's getting these percentages and that. It's just, again, it's a gimmick. That's all it is.
Quick word on Hrgovic as well, Andy. His future prospects.
Yeah, I agree. Everything with Ozzy was saying. I mean, his last two opponents here, the one he fought previously, had they fought in something like, what was it, 4 or 5 years? And that Booker, after Tony, hadn't he fought in something, what was it, Oz, 12 years? Maybe longer than that, 15 years?
Yeah, I've just looked back. It was in 2004, so 16 years.
16 years. Right? And you've got Hrgovic, who, by the way, I have seen live. And I'm telling you right now, by the way, I am not sold on him. He is so basic. He's awful to watch. He's got no head movement. He's stiff as anything. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know if this is true, but I don't know if this Michael Hunter fight's been made. Again, I'm not in the loop at the minute. You know what my situation is just now. But if that fight with Michael Hunter gets made, I believe Michael Hunter would beat him. Would school him, actually. I seen the stoppage last night. It was horrendous. I mean, did any punches land? I don't think they did. And I'm going off like a 10-second clip on Twitter that I seen this morning. Horrendous, man. Horrendous.
Nothing landed. And like I said, Booker was completely out of shape and had no business being in that ring. But what I will say, it should not have been stopped. It was a horrendous stoppage. Like I said, it's like the referee had just had enough.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know what age this guy is now. He must be mid to late 20s and stuff. You can go on about his amateur record and all that sort of stuff. I know he's fought some good fighters like Camarelli, Daichko, Tony Yoka, Demarezi, and fighters Josh Parker. I know he beat Joseph Parker in the amateurs and that as well, in the world amateurs and stuff. But yeah, this is the pro game, and I don't know if I don't know if he's still with Surland. I don't know actually, but it's clearly they must be trying to like keep him active, try and get some sort of ranking points to get him into position. But I'm telling you right now, but I see that guy. Danny Young will tell you, and so my mate Lewis Greenstead, we saw him live in Latvia. He is basic as anything. He's slow, he's stiff, he's no head movement. I'm saying the same things over and over again. And I'm going to keep saying it until I see improvements of that guy. He is going nowhere quick. And he's fighting bums like he's been fighting the last two fights. And I know that guy Booker was like a few pounds heavier than what Hrgovic is, but the state of that guy, the state of him. I don't know what his height and that was, but he was something was at 240, 250. Did that guy even train for the fight? If he did train for it, he obviously trained for it in the kitchen. Absolutely horrendous.
Well, it might have got better or worse on the undercard, Rob. You can feel free to comment on Hrgovic if you wish. But what about Zhilei Zhang against Devin Vargas? I actually thought the big fella didn't... he put his punches together quite well for a big lad. He was dropping the hooks to the body, shots to the head. There was no disputing the finish. Anyway, he caught that fella a cracker punch.
Yeah, it was a good finish. Just on Hrgovic, I mean, I've been saying over the last while, like the heavyweight is in for a rude awakening once Fury and Joshua's time is over. Because really what's coming up here is shite.
Exactly.
They need to have some young, exciting guys turning over in the heavyweight division. Looking at Hrgovic last night, I am convinced that I could get a lad off a building site who never boxed before, who's just a big lump, and train him for 3 years and get him into the rankings in the heavyweights, because that fucking fella that was fighting him last night, coming into the ring in that shape, absolutely disgraceful. No interest in the sport. And then it's like, kind of, what's the point of Hrgovic? Where is he going? Like, he's not going towards a title. Forget about it. Imagine him trying to fucking fight Fury, Joshua, even Usyk. He's miles off, absolutely miles off the top level. I don't even know what the fucking point of this guy is. And he couldn't even be that ruthless with a fucking heavy bag that he was fighting last night. Like, he was just going through the motions, completely robotic, straight up and down, no special effects. It's just fucking a shocking state of affairs. And bad luck for DAZN, that card actually last night. There was a guy on the fight early, had tassels on the shorts, can't remember his name. A lot of good straight punches, got the stoppage against the guy called Reyes in 3 rounds. I can't remember what his name was, but he's good. He looked decent anyway, but fuck me, man. DAZN's after turning out to be a nightmare, isn't it? Like, for all the high hopes that the boxing community had, and certainly DAZN and the people around DAZN had, it's really turned out to be a shit show. And that wasn't a great card last night. Like, really wasn't a great card. With Devin Haney and Yoriokas, 36-year-old Yoriokas Gamboa headlining, it doesn't say much for the fucking undercard. Like,
Yeah, every time Devin Vargas appears, I usually throw in the stat about the fact that I'm pretty sure he's deaf. But I dropped that stat because I was starting to disbelieve myself. I couldn't find any evidence for it. And Coogan's Waterbill jumps in and says, I'm pretty sure Devin Vargas is deaf. Irrelevant bit of trivia for you. So maybe I was telling the truth all those years about Devin. I'm pretty sure you're right, Coogan. I honestly think that he is deaf. I mean, fair play to him if he is. Like, maybe
must
we'll
be
knock
tough
the
when it comes
equilibrium.
up to the end of the round for him.
Exactly. I'm sure I read that too. And Coogan's Waterbill seems to agree with me. It would affect the balance and all that. But fair play to him. I think he was a former Olympian at some point. Anyway, let's move on then, shall we? I was joking about Booker and the nutrition and all that type of stuff, but I'm going to throw a question over to you, Ozzy. I don't know what you think about this one. And the other headliner, I actually watched both cards. I went over to the Microsoft Theatre and watched the Luis Ortiz, Alexander Flores fight as well, Frank Sanchez against Brian Howard. But on this Rydell Booker theme, you've got Alexander Flores coming in right against Luis Ortiz. Now, this guy comes in with a big muffin top belly hanging over his shorts. He's got a big pair of knockers, and he gets knocked out in about 45 seconds. And Michael Valish wasn't quite as bad when he fought Daniel Dubois behind the bubble, but you've got Valish, you've got Flores, you've got Booker coming in awful shape. I mean, do these guys have no professional pride, Ozzy? What's the crack here? Should we be holding them to higher standards? They should be coming in much better shape than this.
To be fair, shape isn't everything. Andy Ruiz is a prime example. Andy Ruiz is a big bloke in no shape whatsoever, but he's a very good fighter. That's saying the likes of Flores, Rydell Booker, Saul Farah, they're in that sort of category. Just fat slobs. And it's like they may as well, like the night before, we can throw in fucking Chippy Tits, Christopher Lovejoy in there as well. Another one who was coming in at, what was his weight again? Something like
Chris
300 pounds. Yeah, Ariola, exactly, yeah. But to be fair though, Andy, fucking Ariola in one of his fights, what was it, in the last 12, 18 months, threw shitloads of punches. So you know he's in some sort of shape. These fat slobs are nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's like they've just been sat on a couch eating fucking cheese toasties, swigging pints of cream and doing anything they can to put weight on. And they rock up and it's like they put that much, you know, they just put the weight on to absorb punches, rock up, either get banged out in a few seconds or go a few rounds. They take the however many thousands of dollars they get and on the bike to the next one. I mean, for me, promoters should not be like Luis Ortiz, fucking Alex. What's the point? Last night's PBC event was appalling, absolutely appalling. It was a joke. It was just rubbish, utter trash. And I put the DAZN card in the same category. And it's weekends like this, you know, where people say, you know, like boxing's flying high. I just revert to these sort of weekends. It's fucking not at all. Joey Abel getting wheeled out again. He's shite. And then Sanchez Howard. It's like, fucking hell. Let's start lifting the levels a bit. But like I said, it's not all about shape because, you know, like I said, you can be a big, you know, big muscle, you know, like muscle machine, and you get banged out in a round as well. We've seen that before. But at the same time, these fat slobs who come in and, like I said, have just been pulled off a couch. You've got to look at it in terms of being sanctioned. I mean, I worked it out, Andy. Filip Hrgovic, when Rydell Booker boxed James Toney, Hrgovic was 11. Now he's boxed him last night. He was fucking 11. So yeah, we've just got to be seeing. We've got to be seeing better. Got to be seeing a lot better stuff. And like I said, last night, Ortiz's opponent, again, we know what Ortiz is about. Now, unless Ortiz is going to, you know, like literally was getting a run out, and then in January, he's got a big fight on the horizon, then what's the point in fighting Alexander Flores? Again, there's enough heavyweights around to make, you know, these similar level fights. People like to call Ortiz out now, so let's see, you know, what sort of opponent we can get. Hughie Fury, Peter Fury always says, you know, we'll fight anybody. What a good fight that'd be. Hughie Fury, Luis Ortiz, Hrgovic, Luis Ortiz. They keep talking the talk. Let's see him walk the walk and step up to these sort of opponents.
Andy, I know you didn't get a chance to catch this one. You didn't miss much at all between Ortiz and Flores, but I'm sure that the way they're thinking about this is Ortiz is at least 41. They're saying he's 41. We believe he's a bit older. After the 2 Wilder fights, people know about him. He's still got one last run, possibly at heavyweight, so let's get him a couple of quick-fire, impressive, highlight reel KOs and wheel him out one final time. I'm sure that's the plan for him, Andy.
Absolutely. Mate, he's ranked number 3 with WBC. Number 3 with WBC. Just think he's also ranked number 3 with WBA. You know, it's just, he's obviously going to get opportunities. If he's still with the PBC and that, then obviously he could maybe do, I don't know, would they put him in with Wilder again for Wilder coming back? I don't know. But I guess I agree with everything what Ozzy's saying there. We need to see. Look, there's only so much as well about this pandemic and that can be used as an excuse about not making these bigger fights. If you've got to safeguards, I get Eddie's point as well. I know this was an Eddie card and stuff like that, but Eddie's going on about, for example, how we kind of make certain fights that you need a crowd and all that sort of stuff. But put a card on with 1 fight or 2 fights on it. That's a really good 50-50 match. And people would watch it, but then he says, "But I've got fighters I need to look after and stuff, and they're bagging me for like dates and all that sort of stuff." Look, it doesn't matter. You've got to get these fighters fighting better oppositions. It doesn't matter. Look, that guy Hrgovic, Ortiz would be an ideal opponent for him, even at this point in his career. Absolutely. Andy Ruiz, absolute ideal for Hrgovic. I tell you what, Andy Ruiz would knock him out. I would believe if he was trained and motivated, possibly would knock him out. Probably, I tell you one fighter actually who they even fancy to beat him. Big Robert Helenius. I put that name right out there right now because the big man's been there. He's had these problems with promotions, injuries, and that sort. He's been over the course, and he's in his last chance loan as well. Maybe get robbed in the cars and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, mate. Look, as Rob was saying, is outside the top 3, probably. Outside the top 3, the heavyweight division is absolute dross, complete dross. Even though I'm picking Joyce to beat Dubois, the worst thing that could happen in that fight is Joyce to win it. Because we need the young guys coming through, as Rob says, Lisa Hunter. We need Parker's, he's late 20s. But we mentioned it a couple of weeks back on the Patreon podcast we did, and that we went through the heavyweight division and stuff. The top 10, outside of Parker, every single one of those fighters are either in their 30s or in their 40s. We need fresh blood, and we need it pretty quick because, as Rob says as well, when Fury and Joshua leave the division, there is nothing left, and there's a day of reckoning going to be coming here because there is nothing there. I mean, Yevgeny Romanov, Chisora still ranked. Pulev will probably get bombed out the rankings after Joshua deals with him. That Chinese guy, I never seen him last night, but he's ranked as well. A Jagba, nothing. Absolutely, he's got no answers. In fact, there's more questions than answers with him actually. Another one who's far too stiff. Caballel, decent technician, but probably, as we probably said, is probably at best a European level fighter, which is no disgrace, but I think that's his level. Trevor Bryan's got a belt. Manny Char's got a belt. That is the level we're kind of then getting to by this point and stuff. So the division needs to be raked out and cleared out. But until that day, until Fury and Joshua retire, I'm sorry, man. There's nothing there. It sounds negative, but can you imagine if Povetkin beats Whyte again? And there's talk about Povetkin being in the hospital just now with pneumonia on top of the COVID and stuff. So is that fight with Dillian Whyte going to be pushed back even further? I mean, I don't even think Povetkin would be ready for the new January date, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, what is that, 8 weeks away? Nah, I don't see it.
No, I wouldn't. It wouldn't, would it? No.
No, I don't see it, mate. So, yeah, I mean, between the WBC as well, actually want to bring in this new weight division in between it. What's going to happen then for these weird heavyweights, guys like Hunter, Usyk, maybe even Parker, for example? I don't know how heavy Caballel is off the top of my head, but just those 3 names. Are they guys going to be getting caught out with this new weight division that they're going to drop down to this, whatever it's going to be called, division and stuff? So we've got that nonsense coming into play here as well. So yeah, it's not desperate times, but it's getting to that point with the heavyweight division at some point. Like I would say within the next 18 months, I think we're going to have a big sea change in the heavyweight division because Fury has got one foot out the door. He beats Joshua. I think it's good night. If he schools Joshua or knocks him out, he's got nothing left to do. So he'd be best just retired. So and then Joshua probably would retire as well. I would think. Wilder's like mentally retired. Physically, I don't know where he's at. And shall we just say this? Christopher Lovejoy is ranked 15 in the WBA. Christopher Lovejoy, 15 in WBA. All right, this is what we're talking about. And I say that the Chinese guy, he must be close to 40. He's a big name in China. So Eddie's obviously got plans for him at some point, but we'll wait and see.
He needed a bit of new blood in the heavyweight division. Andy mentioned the heavyweight debate we had recently. That's up on the YouTube channel now. I'll put a link in for everyone to listen to. It's on YouTube. I'll put the link in the chat. You're listening to the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast, episode 398. Andy's with us, so is Ozzy and rapping Rob Kelly. Just moving on to the heavyweights, then Rob, indeed, with you. Luis Ortiz, first of all, let us know what you think about Luis Ortiz's prospects going forward. Just before you start on that, I always love whenever a fighter like Flores goes down and it's clearly a soft knockdown stroke knockout, and the commentary team, the Fox are all ready for this big main event. It's a 10-rounder after 45 seconds. Alexander Flores is basically toast. They're trying to come up with what's happened here? Well, Lennox, if someone gets clipped on the eyebrow, we all know it sort of discombobulates you, and they're trying to find a reason why Flores has gone down. I think, Rob, we all know the reason why he went down. As for Ortiz, he's rolling on. Where'd you see him ending up?
Fuck me, man. I don't know. In a what's it called? Nursing home. He's 100 years of age. Like, what the fuck? Where's it? His prospects at heavyweight? I mean, I think he's shot his bolt. He's had how many world title cracks now? 2. Were both against Wilder. Maybe he had another crack with someone else. Did he? No, he didn't. He's only lost to Wilder, hasn't he? Like, so. He's very old, man. He's long in the tooth, and it's a case of who wants him. Like, why would any of the heavyweights with something to risk now entertain fighting Luis Ortiz? He's bringing nothing. I mean, you kind of have to take these guys' title prospects out of it altogether while this is still going on in the heavyweight division. Fury and Joshua have business to settle. We'll find out where the belts lie. Until then, none of them are getting a shot at a title, so I don't know, Luis Ortiz against Andy Ruiz, something like that. That might be a decent fight. Like, but I don't give a shit, man. About as good as Luis Ortiz is, he's past it, man. He's old news. Like, he's the past of heavyweight boxing that never quite reached his potential. Drug issues, doping issues, bad performances here and there. Dominates. Wilder in the second fight and then gets evaporated. I mean, it's just hard to see a path for him where he becomes a title. Maybe if the titles fragment after and he's still knocking around the 44, which was just closer to 49, he might pick up a version of a title. But as far as his prospects, man, I'm not really that interested, to be honest with you. I didn't even watch the fight last night, so yeah, I don't. Unless he's in with one of the champions, I doubt I'll even watch him again, to be honest with you.
No love for Luis Ortiz there. We're talking Dillian Whyte, Alexander Povetkin shortly. Obviously, the ramifications of that, Aussie. Before we do so, just sliding back to this heavyweight, the Chinese fella, again, Zhang. They're talking about Sky are really trying to push it, aren't they? Eddie's mentioned him a couple of times. It is a realistic proposition, trying to get that money at the moment. Maybe putting AJ with him after the Pulev fight. Me personally, I don't want to see AJ fighting Zhang. I think Zhang is actually pretty decent, but he's not going to beat AJ for a start. AJ has a limited shelf life. I want to see him fight the best before he retires, because I think he's probably got another loss in him, and the apple cart could be upset at any time. So I don't want to see him wasting these fights, Joshua, against the likes of Zhang. But there's a chance, Aussie, they could go over to China and make this fight. What's your opinions?
I think we discussed this a little while ago, and we said that if Joshua's boxing 3 or 4 times a year, you can afford the likes of him boxing Zhilei Zhang if he's going to be boxing, better quality opponents as well. So, for example, for every Fury or, for example, Dubois, Joyce, those sort of level of opponents, Wilders, you box them and you come through, and then you go and fight a Zhilei Zhang, fine. The fact is now that's long gone, and it's only going to be, 2 fights a year. Now, next year, you would assume is a complete write-off, because we're going to see Fury 1, Fury 2. And I don't want to see any of this trash of him fighting fucking Zhilei Zhang. But what I can see is that the belts become, just vacated because of various mandatory situations. Zhang gets his hands on his belt fighting just an absolute trash opponent. And then that's when we see, like a Joshua go to China and fight a Zhang over there type of thing. I mean, I've never seen him. I thought he was a lot leaner than I thought he was. And it was a pretty decent finish, to be fair. But again, he was levels above his opponent. And I'm just looking at his record now. I don't think he's boxed. I mean, that Devin Vargas wasn't great. I think he's the best opponent he's boxed is probably that Andre Rudenko. He's operated around European level. I think Hughie Fury's boxed him. Lucas Brown has boxed him. So he's not, like this, he's by no means a top level, sort of opponent. Fairly solid. And Zhang just went the distance with him as everybody else has in Rudenko. So, again, the thing with these heavyweights is it's tough to see until they get punched. And you put them in with absolute rubbish. And in reality, you look at his record, it's shite. Again, it's crap. He's just been built over there across... been built over there. He's fought a hell of a lot in America. And he's had a handful of fights in China, maybe 2 or 3. And then he boxed in Monte Carlo. And I think that was on a Matchroom card as well, actually. So... I don't know, again. Well, I don't want to see Joshua box him. I mean, this guy's 37 as well. Big bang. Fuck that. You don't cause no big bang. Again, stick him in with fucking Hrgovic, Bacoli, Hunter, whoever. Let's see how good these people are because we'll soon, get rid of the chances. We may talk the talk, but as soon as they get punched, they can't walk the walk. So big bang, it'll be a big bang on the floor when this guy falls. Because, look, he looked okay last night against somebody who don't punch him back. But let's see when he steps up as well. This guy should... The only reason Anthony Joshua will fight this guy is for cash. And it'll be a marketing ploy. Nothing else.
Yeah, I might see AJ appearing in a different location. Who knows? Look at Mike Tyson. Don King used to take him back to Japan back in the day, so you never know. Bob Arum did try the Chinese experiment and it didn't quite work out for him, so we'll move on anyway to heavyweight matters closer to home. Andy, Dillian Whyte was supposed to fight Alexander Povetkin on the 21st of November. I think that's supposed to be over the next couple of weeks or so. Povetkin hospitalised with COVID-19. I've not heard of that. I don't know what that is. And also a bit of pneumonia. Why not throw that in as well? It's not the first time he's tested positive for something, Andy. But unfortunately, this means he's going to be out of the Dillian Whyte fight. They're tempting Eddie, aren't they, to try and draft Derek Chisora in? Surely they're not going to try and pull that one off, are they?
Well, I suppose at least Chisora wasn't knocked out. I mean, if he was knocked out, that fight would never have been even muted, actually. I mean, the board with the kibosh that straight away. Hayes right in there, obviously. Again, they're looking at trying to kind of cash it out and that, but I don't think... Look, to try to save a pay-per-view date, good and well, but we don't want to see pay-per-view dates and stuff. And you're just wondering that is if it's just working nicely for Eddie and that as well, considering how things are going. TV dates and sales are not going pretty well. Eddie's on Boxing Scene yesterday saying that loads of people will be watching Devin Haney last night compared to who many watched Lopez against Lomachenko. Well, firstly, Haney wasn't even shown in the UK last night, as far as I was aware, even though I'm in Norway just now. I didn't even bother getting up to watch it on YouTube. That's how much that fight interested me. But at the end of the day, Povetkin, as I said to you earlier on there, I don't think he's going to be ready for that. Was it January, I think it was, they're talking about rearranging that fight for? If he's got pneumonia and COVID and stuff like that, there's no way he's going to be fit for that fight, unless he's going to get back on the roids, which it's just stupid. I mean, he's in the last chance saloon anyways, it is, compared to world title shots and stuff. As for Whyte, it's probably even better for him, actually, because coming off a bad knockout like that, I thought it was weird that he just jumped straight into the rematch like that. What was that? I'm saying something like 15 weeks between the first fight and the rematch potentially happening, something like that. That's a big risk, actually, in that as well. I'm surprised that the board might have even allowed Whyte to actually take that fight on again after such a brutal knockout. But I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, unless maybe Pulev happens to pull out, or contracts COVID, White can maybe step in there and fight Joshua. But he needs to remember that as well, as look, you get an opportunity here. You're coming off a bad knockout defeat. If that somehow happens, Pulev has to pull out with COVID or whatever issues and stuff, it's a chance for White to step in there. But for me, if it's going to be Povetkin next, then I think this delay will actually help Dillian Whyte far better. Because obviously, as I say, it'll give him more time to recover after the knockout, and he's potentially then fight a fighter who is he fully recovered? We don't know. I mean, this virus is affecting individuals differently. We don't know, if the pneumonia thing. I mean, look, I've lost a family member to pneumonia and stuff like that, and it just drains the life out of you. So you just don't know what kind of Povetkin you're going to get back in things. I think it'd be safe to say that rematch does not happen until at least March, and that's me being pretty conservative.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, Rob, things are going to rumble on. Obviously, Eddie tried the little cheeky tweet about Whyte should fight Fury, knowing exactly what he was doing. And he mentioned Joshua there. If Pulev pulls out, I think that would be a possibility. But the fact is, White's probably going to hang around, and we might, Rob, still be having this conversation next February, March as a Whyte Povetkin rematch comes along. This fella just can't get a break, can he, Dillian Whyte? He's never going to get the shot at the title.
Yeah. He's already said that he won't fight Chisora. Like, there's nothing at stake. He said if he doesn't get the Fury fight, then he's probably just going to hang on. And I could see that just being moved to regular Sky and the two boys off the header and somebody else headlining it, which is going to be even worse. But yeah, it's again, it's fucking holding shit up in the heavyweights, because this, I don't know, like how forcible this mandatory position is for Whyte, even if he should beat Povetkin. So again, I think he's nowhere near a crack at this title. He's no further now than he was after he had his long wait before Povetkin sparked him. So he's definitely not closer now. Povetkin is sick. Will Povetkin be able to fight again in February or March? Who knows? Like, COVID could take a lot out of him. He might not be back in the ring, especially if he has pneumonia as well, man. That doesn't sound good. Like, so at his age, would he consider retiring? He's gone out on a high, hasn't he? Like, he's probably no need to fight again. He's probably not going to get another crack at a heavyweight title, even if he's instated as mandatory. So maybe he might not fight again, and then you're looking at Whyte fighting Joe Parker 2 or Oscar Rivas 2. This time it's personal, You never know what you could see on, or maybe you will see Del Boy 3 like down the line. But I don't give a fuck about any of that, to be honest with you. Just no interest no interest at all. Not engaged in that whatsoever. I think, as you know, I kind of predicted Povetkin could KO Whyte or in the build-up, and I never thought he was anything special. I do like him as a character. Made a lot of money for himself. Short amateur pedigree. I always like those guys that can turn over and have a real good go of it. He's done that, but I think we've seen his level. I don't think he's ever going to be the heavyweight champion.
Just before I come back to you on a heavyweight question, Ozzy, I'm assuming off the top of my head here they're going to downgrade the show to a non-pay-per-view and have Conor Benn fighting against Formella, or do you know otherwise?
Correct. It's just going to be a Saturday night fight night.
Good old Conor getting a headliner there.
As well, eh?
Oh, I love a bit of Conor Benn. A bit of feedback from John Swan the other week. He said strongly disagree with the number of pay-per-view buys for AJ Fury in the UK would be 1 million plus at £50. At that price, people interested in it will watch as a group. From revenue perspective, I reckon they'll do better at £20, quite possibly. Also surprised at how none of you touched on how great it was to see a crowd at the Davis fight. Watching the KO replay and hearing them roar was brilliant and showed how much it was missed. Absolutely agree with that, but yeah, nobody must have mentioned it. Back to the heavyweights then, Ozzy, with you. Question coming in from Chris Taylor at CTaylor3112 over on Twitter. Whether Joyce wins or loses against Daniel Dubois, I think Joyce versus Usyk is a very good matchup. Does Joyce high output and durability give Usyk big problems down the stretch? Does Usyk tire under the pressure and have to stand his ground at some point? Your thoughts? Obviously, they fought as amateurs. It's the World Series of Boxing, I think, wasn't it? And Usyk got the win. So what do you think about the question? It's up on the screen for you there, Ozzy, from Chris Taylor.
Yeah, I think it'd be a fairly comfortable fight for Usyk, to be honest. Big static target. We'll throw shots, but we can probably argue that Derek Chisora tried this sort of style as well. boring forward, was fairly durable, wasn't he? He didn't, drastically fatigue from where he's just slobbing about like with Chisora previously, when he's ballooned up in weight and coming quite out of shape. What I would say about that, Chisora took that exactly the same style. The only difference is that Joyce is a hell of a lot bigger. But it's one of them. I just don't see it. I think Dubois is going to beat Joe Joyce anyway. I think he'll stop him. I don't think Usyk could stop Joe Joyce because one thing you can argue is that Joyce has got a hell of a chin. But a smaller guy in Bryant Jennings certainly hurt Joyce. I always say I think it was midway through the fight to the body. And I just think Usyk's skills would be too much for Joyce. I think he'd move around. There's nothing to say that I've never seen anything that, Usyk tires under the pressure. Chisora bored forward for 12 rounds and Usyk certainly didn't look fatigued. He's fought all the best cruiserweights and he's fought, quality amateurs and all. It's a bit different. But again, there's never been any questions of his tank there. Just because he's in, with a bigger lump, it also means that bigger lump could also fatigue as well because he's still getting popped and still getting punched. So no, for me, I think it would be a very wide points decision win for Usyk in this sort of contest. It wouldn't shock me if it did happen. I think if Joyce loses to Dubois, it'd be a very much a case of they'll be in a who needs him club and they'll have to take sort of every opportunity they get because it'll be very difficult because he's not someone, who you'd be queuing up to fight because he doesn't sell, loads of tickets from where, it's easy, you can get a payday and generate the money. So it wouldn't shock me if that sort of fight did happen, but for me, it's not winnable for Joyce whatsoever.
Just looking at the questions from the boys there, Celtic Spirit mentioned about Bradley Skeete. I was thinking about Skeete the other day, as you do, naturally.
Yeah, he's back.
A bit of a freshen up, is it? Is that why he's left Alan Smith? Maybe try and jig things up
back.
a
bit?
Yeah.
He's up training with Dominic Ingle in Sheffield. I think he had because he had a little while that he got bashed up off that Spaniard, didn't he, in 2018, and then came back. And then he got blitzed off the Argentinian guy, didn't he, in a couple of rounds. I think it was back end of 2018. So he's had, you can argue he'll have had 2 years out. I think he's just had a clean break. He's not stayed in the area, moved away. I think he's had a connection before with Dominic Ingle or that sort of gym. And he's given it another go. I like Skeete. I genuinely thought he would have beaten that Leharaga, and I think he admits himself he just got, a bit done by the atmosphere and everything that was around him. It's a pretty wild atmosphere in that Bilbao arena. It was packed, but he pretty much dominated domestic level, and I liked him. I think his standout performance was against Sam Eggington, wasn't it, on Sky, and he made Eggington look horrendous. So I like him. Skeete comes across well. Certainly got a place domestically. So fingers crossed, he can make that return. I like Dominic Ingle as well. I think he's one of the better trainers in the UK. Skeete's got his style, so it'd be interesting to see what he can do on a comeback. Look, having 2020 ruled out of your career is nothing new because I'd probably say, 50% of boxers will probably go 12 months without fighting, maybe longer. So Skeete, realistically, he's only had 2019. He's just had a break. He went away from boxing. I know he's got a couple of businesses outside the sport as well, which he does well off. He's back training now, looks in decent shape. So he doesn't need those build-up fights because, look, he's operated at European level. So let's see where he comes back. But good to see him giving it another go, definitely.
Talking of superstars, moving on, Rob, Hughie Fury is supposed to be fighting on the AJ Pulev undercard. The career goes on. It's onwards and upwards for Hughie, from Pavel Sauer to Marius Whack. It sounds a bit whack to me, Rob. What do you reckon, Hughie's prospects going forward?
Yeah, I still think Hughie has a lot to show. He's still very young. I think they tried to fast track him at the start. That was a bad idea. I still think he could have beaten Parker. He could have been a heavyweight champion, man. If he had put 2 more rounds of effort into that fight and put some exclamation on the close rounds instead of backpedaling and tried to use the right hand, he'd be kicking himself, man, because he should have been the world champion that night. That was a great opportunity for him. Take nothing away from Parker, who stayed in the fight all the night. But I thought Hughie, that was more of a case of an opportunity lost than him getting beaten. Then he got cut badly in the Pulev fight, but probably not ready for Pulev at that stage. So maybe a blessing in disguise he didn't win the title early, and he'd have faith that he could come again. But his last 5 or 6 performances, I don't know if it's to do with the illness he had. We keep hearing that he's fully fit and he's had great camps and that, but he hasn't looked good in a while. So he doesn't look to have masterful defense the same as his cousin, and he definitely can't crack. He has got some degree of power, but he definitely can't crack at the top level, I don't think so. It's going to be a tough road for him, but again, as this landscape clears, he could be one of the ones who takes over domestically and puts himself in line for a title shot down the line. I wouldn't rule it out, definitely not. He seems to be with the right people to make things happen out of nothing in Britain, but I don't know how high he is up the priority list. That's something he's going to have to work on himself, but I like him. I like the guy and all. I like his style and stuff, but he's just lacking something in his last crossover performances. I think since he stopped that guy, what's his name? British heavyweight
Sam
champion.
Sexton.
Sam Sexton, yeah. Since he evaporated him, he hasn't really done anything. So, but still, we kind of forget how young he is. So he'll be around for another while, and his time will come probably down the line.
Yeah, it'd be a better boxing with Mick on Channel 5, I think, for all Eddie's done for him. I know the opportunities of potential are there, but he's been with Eddie for a while now, and he's done absolutely nothing. He'd been better off headlining on Channel 5 with Mighty Mick, in my opinion. Let's go back in time, Andy, sliding back into the archives to sticking with the heavyweights. Not quite a Hughie Fury's level now. Kevin Chase on Facebook said, Andy, don't know if you guys would have room for a bit of this on the pod, a flashback feel-good story with all the shite and poor judges scoring, awful pay-per-views going on. 26 years ago today, this was during the week, Andy, George Foreman knocked out Michael Moorer in the 10th round. It happened 26 years ago during the week, Andy, Foreman against Moorer.
26 years ago, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, guy's getting dominated for the best part of 10 rounds and that. And he just finds the right hand. It was a great performance. It was just a great upset, and just to hear, I had a lot of respect for, Gil Clancy, and back in them days, and that it wasn't so much hyperbole. It was, you could hear it in his voice when he knocked him out. Gil Clancy, when Jim Lampling comes out with that great comment, it happened. There's a silence for maybe 10 seconds, and Gil Clancy just pipes up, I can't believe it.
Can't believe it.
I can't believe it. And he just gets on his knees, George Foreman, and he looks up to the gods and that. It's just one of the boxing. That was one of boxing's greatest moments. I'll tell you what, though, I will be honest. We're talking about the heavyweight division these days. Can you imagine that result happening in 2020? Considering what we've all just said there, it would be the worst thing to happen to the sport, because you've got a almost 50-year-old man winning the heavyweight title against a guy who's in his late 20s, early 30s. It would be the worst thing to happen, but at the same time, it is probably it's just historic, and it is what boxing's all about. It's just one punch can change anything, and that punch, along with the one that he knocked Jerry Cooney with, the right uppercut. Those 2 knockouts, and probably the Frazier one as well, but that's because it's knockdowns and stuff. But the Cooney and the Michael Moorer knockouts are always synonymous with George Foreman, just because it was just that one punch, hit or quitter type power he had. Even if he was in his 20s, his 30s, his 40s, or his 50s, if George Foreman hit you clean, you were going to go. And it was 26 years ago. Bloody hell. I'd be what at that time? When was that, Steve?
94. I would have been
94.
12.
I would have been 13 at the time.
I was 14.
13.
I remember it. I remember
Jesus
it because I had the video Champions Forever. They kind of give the rundown on all of the players. Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. And I kind of grew up on that. That was one of my Bibles, my go-to videos. So when I seen Foreman back, no afro, clean shaven, fucking looking like Buddha in the ring, but he gave Holyfield a good fight too before that, in the 90s, early 90s. Well, he didn't give him a good fight, he lost the fight, but he hung in there, he was competitive against Holyfield. But I just remember thinking, how the fuck is this guy back in the fucking, like, how is he back? Like, I have this video of him back in the 70s doing his thing, and now this is the 1990s, and here comes George Foreman on the comeback trail, like, just being, and everyone was rooting for him as well. Like, everyone in the boxing community was rooting for him. They were behind, like, it was, some people were calling it a farce, some people were worried about his health. He was knocking over stiffs, but then when he moved up the level, he got 2 world title shots in his 40s, like, absolutely unbelievable. And that is an iconic moment. B-Hop asked Lampley to do it again when he beat Pascal to be the oldest take George's record. He asked Lampley to do it again, say it happened to happen, so he did.
Good point, Nash. The thing is, to see his comeback as well for him. I mean, he fought something like 15, 20 fights over a course of 3-4 years or something, fighting absolute stiffs, and he got opportunities after, like Tommy Morrison.
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield and all that type of thing, and that he got world title opportunities after that, and people are like, nah, he doesn't deserve another one. And you can see me, he's like, nah, he's not going to win this, and then just finds the right hand. And Terry Atlas as well, you know, the thing with Moorer and that is, I don't know what it is, his attitude and stuff, but Moorer, Atlas is trying to G him up. Was it the Holyfield fight? I think it was. And it's to see him like to actually like, you know, dominate the fight. And Atlas was saying, do not circle into the right hand. And what happens? Just a split second, he circles into the right hand and he just finds the opening and he just ices him. Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was. And don't forget, Mora was a proper fighter. He'd made multiple defences of his title at light heavyweight. He came in 35-0 undefeated, unified heavyweight champion. So Foreman did really take all the silverware off him that night. What are we going to go on to next? Kaiser Koba says for episode 400, the panel's favourite moment in boxing history. Well, I think we'll do that, actually. I'll try and make a note of that. And I'll come up with some general moments from history, you know, the fan man, but Riddick Bowe probably come up with about 4 or 5 just on his own. And then I'll invite the lads to do that on episode 400. If I remember Kaiser Koba, hit me up on Twitter during the week. Gerwin Davis threw in a question stroke comment, which I think we've already dealt with. I'll read it out anyway. He sent it in over on patreon.com/boxing asylum. Gerwin says, do you think that Sky may have shelved all pay-per-views due to the lockdown? Interesting that the football pay-per-view model looks to be getting shelved. Then the Whyte fight gets postponed. Hearn said that Povetkin was hospitalised with COVID. Didn't stop his wife showing her nails off on Insta. I think we can agree that Mr. Povetkin is probably not too well. What do we have here for you, Ozzy, actually coming up? Let's check that you're with us. Casuals, indeed. You know about betting. Well, hopefully, wanted Smido on tonight, but he wasn't able to join us, unfortunately. Des Watson sent one in, Ozzy. He said, listening to the latest pod about Sky's biased commentary, do you think they are purposely calling it wrong to influence the in-play betting market so the pissed-up casuals get screwed? This means nothing to me. Do explain.
No, they're not. Purely on the fact I'll use the example of the Vasquez fight from where Sky had Ritson losing, the bookies had Ritson losing. Oh, well, from that perspective, if they then want to swerve it and then put money on Ritson, then yeah, but no,
You had mates last week though, mate, telling you the Sky are saying this and that. You know, I might put money on that fight last week, for example. You know, so they haven't got a wee bit of sway.
Yeah, but that's in the build-up. So, in terms of the commentary during the fight, no, none whatsoever. They're what they say will influence it. But, I mean, bookmakers when it comes to boxing aren't the most clued up, but they're certainly not going to get swayed because Matthew Macklin is saying Joe Bloggs is winning.
No, I think he has a bit of credence to that though, because what he's getting at, what I think is that he's saying about the in-play stuff. So, like, you know, if the Sky panel are calling it for the house fighter, you know, are they going to fucking load money on the house fighter to win it before the end of the distance or whatever? There's something to it, because in boxing, there's only 2 guys in the fight, right? So normally the clear favourite wins. 99% of the time, week in, week out, the clear favourite wins. So you're naturally inclined to load on the favourite, like if you're a betting man. So a lot of the times they say these Vegas cards have split decisions when there's a clear UD is to purposely fuck up the betting market and so the bookies don't lose their arse, like, which makes a lot of sense in a town like Vegas. I don't know how it translates to the UK, but it certainly explains some of these fucking Canelo Alvarez cards over the years and that, like. So I don't know. I think he's onto something there with the betting. There's something, but as far as Sky, it definitely. I think we've all covered it over the months. Like, it definitely at this stage looks like it's pre-discussed at a production meeting or something. Like, you big up the house fighter and that's it at all costs. Like,
I certainly agree that they go in with a motivation of backing the house fight without a doubt. I understand that, but I don't think they're in any way trying to influence a betting market. Certainly, I think look, we've all said it before. What they say and what we see are sometimes two completely different things. But from a betting perspective, I don't see that personally. It's just so wide, bigger market and things like that. I just don't see it from that perspective at all. Smido would be better explaining it than me because he could, it's an industry he knows extremely well. But from my knowledge of it, if I'm watching something and, I'm a casual and, he's a commentator, he must know more than me, and you might chuck money on it. But then you would have lost cash, with them saying Vasquez was winning, about a month ago. You'd have been like, right, we'll get on Vasquez now, and then he gets beat, type of thing. So, to be like I said, Sky have improved in the past couple of weeks, and they've called it, and ultimately would have been stung by the bookies as well because the said fighter who they've gone against has ended up winning.
Andy, just moving into next week, we'll talk about Crawford Brook shortly, but just before we do so on the undercard, Joshua Franco going in the rematch against Andrew Maloney. This was one of the first fights back in the bubble, wasn't it? I think Top Rank maybe even the second fight when we went back and boxing started to reappear again after Shakur Stevenson won. Maloney was expected to win. He was 21-0 against Franco. Franco got the narrowest of wins, and if you actually saw that one, Andy, if you're interested in the rematch, if you think it'll go any differently?
It was a close fight for what I can recall, actually. And I'm sure, just off the top of my head, actually, I've not got anything in front of me, but I'm sure he ended up in the hospital after the back end of that fight as well.
He did,
He was feeling dizzy, vomiting and stuff in the dressing room, so that's a concern that potentials or maybe a brain injury there. So it'll be interesting actually to see, considering what's happened there. I mean, how long ago was that? That was
June, end of June.
Yeah, summertime and that. So it'll be interesting to see where he's at in that. I know his manager, Tony Tolshe, he follows me on Twitter and that. I've been trying to kind of get some of the Aussie guys on the podcast and that, but it's just the timing just doesn't fucking work for us, really,
Yeah.
But as I say, it was a very, very close fight. I think Maloney even had he had a few burst eardrums and that as well, actually, just off the top of my head. I'm not too sure, actually. I mean, as I say, it was a close fight. He could probably win it on points, Maloney. I like the two brothers and stuff. It was a definite shock defeat, actually, I must be honest with you. But I don't know. We'll wait and see. But again, if you've got a fighter who goes to the hospital, dizzy, vomiting, it doesn't bode well. Perforated eardrums. Yeah, I'll probably side on the fence. Maybe say it'll be another close fight. Could go either way, I think.
From what I remember, I'll leave you, Andy, but from what I remember is it was quite a brutal fight. Neither man had really concussive, heavy-hitting punching power at the top level, so they had just enough power to do each other a world of damage without stopping each other. I think it's going to be exactly the same, go right to the wire, and maybe Maloney might nick it, but it's going to be pretty same as the first fight, I reckon.
Yeah, I would probably say so, mate. I think it'll be a close fight. Franco's an okay fighter. Maloney, as I say, he's decent enough. It was a big shock for me, actually, even though it was, as you say, it was a bit of a war and they've not got the big power punches and stuff, but just as well, like that Franco can't punch, because considering what happened to Maloney afterwards and stuff, just as well. I thought maybe it was actually even better, actually. I mean, look, I'm saying this is probably the worst thing, probably, actually, but the whole saying was it was best to get knocked out clean and take a prolonged beating. But if you look at what happened to Ricky Hatton, who got knocked out off Pacquiao, he got what's called an accelerated knockout, coupled with a decelerated knockout, because his head hit the canvas. So actually then he wasn't knocked out, so he kind of came to because he hit the canvas. He kind of jolted himself awake in that. I always go back to Mickey Ward against Gatti when he got knocked down in I might say the third fight it was. You see, when I was knocked out, you see, it wasn't until he hit me again, I kind of came to. So there's maybe the element to that as well. You just don't know, these prolonged 12-round fights and stuff, the damage that they've probably taken. You just don't know. But he's out of hospital now and all that sort of stuff. So we'll wait and see if he comes. But I'm going to say another close fight. It could go either way.
Shout out to friend of the pod, Hater Dave Lowback, can't be with us tonight. He's got COVID, but he said, tell everyone I said Devin Haney is a twonk. Get well soon, Hater Dave. We love and respect you. Next week, Rob, Saturday the 14th of November. Decent fight between John Doherty and Jack Cullen. You don't have to comment on this one, but I think that's a good step up for Doherty. See where his power's at. It's the all-females. You know where I'm going to end up here. First of all, Terry Harper against Katharina Thanders. Rachel Ball was supposed to fight Ebony Bridges, and I'm happy to go on the record and say until proven otherwise, Ebony Bridges is a social media creation. I don't actually believe she's actually a fighter. Anyway, she's out of this fight. Georgelina Guanini is in instead. And what about this, Rob? Katie Taylor against 13-0 Miriam Gutierrez. How do you see that one going with Katie topping the bill and an all-female three-way headliner?
I think Heidi will do very well in the fight, please God. No, I don't want to disrespect Katie Taylor. She's a legend. But yeah, I don't give a shit about this one, Steve. You know what I mean? Women's boxing. I think some of the pronunciations are good. What's Rachel Ball's opponent called?
Georgelina Guanini.
Georgelina Guanini is so very brave. Log that one. That's coming. She's giving it all tonight. She's just fallen short against a frontline worker. We'll never forget. And Katie Taylor in a headliner against Miriam. There's something about Miriam. Anyone to get that niche reference? No. But yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's ticking over, isn't it? It's something to talk about next week. Just about, I mean, Doherty and Cullen might be a good scrap. Ozzy will probably give you more info on that one. But these girls fighting, Ebony Bridges, she's not even fighting on this. So, fuck me, Rachel Ball, who'd you say, Terry Harper and Katie Taylor. Well, there's only thing missing off that bill is the GOAT herself, Clarissa. Let's get Clarissa Shields over to get some smoke talk going with Chantel Cameron. I'd watch that, Clarissa the GOAT. So we'll wait for Clarissa's Twitter commentary next week. That might be more entertaining than the fights. I expect Katie Taylor to stop this girl. I don't know. I feel a bit bad for Katie Taylor, to be honest with you, on a serious note. I think she's past her prime, and I think she's fighting up the weight, and I think she's had so many amateur fights. I think it is only a matter of time before she actually unravels in the ring. That's not being cruel or it's not being dismissive of her. It's not taking anything away from her. She's probably the greatest. She probably has laid claim to the GOAT title herself. And what she did for Irish boxing and women's boxing can't be overlooked. But I just think that they're rinsing her for cash at the moment. And I feel a bit. I just think I think she's past her prime. She should have retired.
It has to end some point, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So whether it's a Serrano or whatever the fuck it is, it's coming, or the rematch with that girl. I thought she lost. To be honest with you, I thought there was a case for losing the last two fights. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Katie's coming close to the edge of the cliff and she's about to tip off. Bean will be there when it all happens. As for Ebony Bridges, like I said, I'm not saying she was never going to come over and take the fight, but I think she's a social media creation. Until I actually see her fighting in the flesh, I'm not going to believe that she's actually a proper fighter of any repute. Aussie, next Wednesday, the 11th of November, you can talk about Katie Taylor and all them if you want, but any value in this MTK card? Jack Rafferty going in against Tom Hill. I think this one's been rescheduled. They were maybe supposed to fight at one point before. Danny Murrell making his super lightweight debut against Dale Arrowsmith. Paddy Donovan going in against Jermaine Camaro. Nice little step up for him. And in the main event, Tursinbay Kolakmet, looks a bit like Josh Warrington, him, going in for the vacant WBC International Super Welterweight title against 14-0-1 Macaulay McGowan. It's okay for YouTube, fair, Ozzy?
Yeah, I think a couple of fights have fallen through. I think this was the McGregor Guerfi card, I think. So that's a shame that fight fell through. But yeah, it's okay. Look, it is what it is. A couple of prospects stepping up. That Inder Bassi against Jack Martin, 2-0, 3-0. Rafferty, I like him. One to watch. I hope he puts in a decent performance. Is that Kalakmet one of the Kazakhstanis that has signed with? Yeah. Look, it'd be interesting. 1-0. You know, they've got these big backgrounds type of thing. You know, McGowan's no slouch domestically. They've no doubt they think they can beat McGowan. And that Danny Morrell is the Dave Allen protege as they like to refer to. So, look, every video I saw about Morel in these like sparring and bits and pieces gets battered. I don't think 237 and 1 Dale Arrowsmith will pose many problems, but you never know type of thing. But yeah, it's okay. I can't say I'll be tuning in live on Wednesday night, but I'll probably watch it back. A quick word on that Matchroom card. Again, it's not really for me. I've just not got the interest in women's boxing. The most interesting fight I've watched this year is Rachel Ball against Shannon Courtney, and it's because I had money on it. That's the only reason why. That Thunders beat Ball over in, I think she's from Denmark or Sweden, one or the other, and I thought Ball deserved a draw. So I'd expect Harper to have far too much for her. That Katie Taylor again, I only want to see her fight Chantel Cameron. And that Georgelina Giannini, she's Argentinian, and she's actually a super flyweight champion. So this is a tougher fight for Ball than that Ebony Bridges fight, which I think so. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if she gets beat, Ball, actually. I'll be interested to see the prices on it, because I'll take a world champion over a novice 6-1 without a doubt, all things considering as well, when they were putting her in with Ebony Bridges. The best fight on the card is Doherty-Cullen, without a doubt. Doherty's actually stepped in, replacing Jamie Cox, who got cut, but Doherty should have been fighting Jack Armfield, either on the same bill or I think it was the same bill, but Armfield has got a ruptured appendix, so it's worked out okay. Doherty will destroy Cullen, and I think he'll look good doing it. Cullen's not a super middleweight. He can argue he drew with Zach Chelly, and he got a fortunate decision there. I'll be backing Doherty to stop Cullen and look really well in doing it. I think it'll be a bit of a beatdown. So yeah, so the card itself doesn't do a lot for me. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm more interested in the show the night before, the BT one, just because of the main event itself.
Are you talking about Heffron Bentley?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to come to with you for a word now. Anyway, do I expect Bentley to maybe box clever and get the win this time? How do you see it going?
Well, yeah, but I spoke to John Evans, who is close to both fighters, and has spoken to them for, I think, is it 32 Red, one of the betting firms that sponsor the BT shows. And it's interesting, and he thinks Bentley might well adopt a different tactic because he feels that if he adopts the same style, the judges may well side to Heffron. I think for BT's sake, it will be better if Bentley wins, but it's one that I'm genuinely struggling to call. I picked Bentley first time round and I thought Bentley won, but Heffron can take a lot of confidence that the fact he was dropped, got back up, and then hurt Bentley late in the fight. So it shows, his power lasts and Bentley can be buzzed. I'm also a big fan of Michael Jennings as a trainer. I know he's local to me in Chorley, but I think he does extremely well with his fighters, and his fighters improve under him. Now, Michael Jennings has had a lot longer now with Mark Heffron. Not a long time, but he's had, a hell of a lot longer than the first fight. They're clearly confident that, they can go and beat Denzel Bentley. And I think this is, the epitome of, a British title fight. This is excellent. An immediate rematch, 25-1 against the 13-0. Styles, perfect. Similar sort of level. It has all the ingredients for another excellent fight. If you want to call it a chief support, but I would say it's probably one of the, the second fight on the card. That Michael Ramabaletsa against Chris Bork. That's another good fight. Ramabaletsa's a lot better than his record suggests. 18 and 17, he's better than that. I think he's also the British champion at this weight as well.
Didn't Bork beat Mahmood, who was on with us before?
Correct, yeah, and that was a good fight as well for the Southern Area belt. So that was good. I mean, look, they've got one of these ranking belts on the line, one of these bauble belts. Means they've got to make weight and stuff. But that's a good fight, that. I don't know much about that Kais Kadimi against Ijaz Ahmed. I know that Ahmed, I think he fought Harvey Horn on one of Frank's. You know, he does a dinner show each year for that music charity. He does it in December. So he's done that, and Ahmed got beat off Harvey Horn on that show.
Okay.
So I would expect Kademi to win, and then on the rest of the undercard, if these fights are still going ahead, you've got basically a load of prospects, and Tommy Fury returns. I don't really care about Tommy Fury. Look, he's a reality TV star, and he's not going to fight anybody good. So until he steps up, I have no interest in this guy. But 2 fights on the BT card I am interested are the main event and the chief support, and they should be pretty good. And I'll be looking from a betting perspective as well, just out of interest, just to see what the prices are on Heffron and Bentley, because it was a 50-50 last time. It's very rare you see 3 judges score a fight, all a draw. So again, there's no reason why the bookie should sway. In fact, they've got Bentley and a very, very a favourite 4-5. Bentley 6, Heffron 6-5, and the draw, if you think it'll be a draw again, which we've seen before, is what's it called? Is 20-1.
There you go, Aussie dropping some tips on this Sunday evening, episode 398. Aussies with Andy, Rapping Rob Kelly, me, Steve Wellings. John Wayne said this podcast talks sense. Nice to see the coalition back this week as well. Yes, didn't realise the Boxing Coalition were back on the airwaves. Go and give them a listen. Cam and the guys doing a solid job over there out in independent podcasting land. Andy, before we go on to Brook Crawford, word from you on the most eligible bachelor in boxing, Saul Canelo Alvarez. Is the biggest free agent in the world now. I suppose no point in really talking about the split. We know what's going on. Oscar's pissed up all the time. Doesn't really know what he's doing. There's obviously some contractual shenanigans behind the scenes that he didn't want to leak out. And I think they just wanted to get things over and done with. Everyone's happy, I suppose. I know Oscar's lost his cash cow, but I think every party will probably be happy with this at the end of the day. Where do we see Canelo going next? What's he going to do? Is he actually going to sign his life away with anyone, or is he going to actually be a free agent picking fight to fight from now on under?
Is it completely definite? Because I haven't really kind of kept up to date with the recent...
Eddie Reynoso has confirmed, Andy, that it's all agreed and he's a completely free agent.
Well, it's good news if it is, and that being the case, just say it is, then he would be best to do what Ray Leonard did. Just get his manager to get him the fights, and I think we'll talk about Khalid Plant. That would be an excellent fight, actually. To be honest with you, if the situation is reported in that, he'd be absolutely crazy to sign himself away actually to the PBC, Showtime, whatever it's going to be and stuff. Just go fight by fight basis, just like Mikey Garcia did to a point, but then. Some people did say that Garcia was actually, in bed with the PBC. He wasn't really like a proportional free agent in that. But it'll be good to see him active at least. Boxing needs their cash cows, their main stars to be active and fighting and stuff. So Canelo is probably, if he's no top, the top dog, he's probably top 3 fighter in the world just now. So it'll be good to see him back fighting that, because obviously the way things were going to be working out is it sounded like Canelo was going to fight again this year. Well, obviously he's going to fight again this year, but you know what I mean? He was going to be at the ring for a prolonged period of time. Sounds like he's going to be in the ring soon, hopefully within the next 3 to 4 months, and just hopefully he's active in that, because there's fights to be made. I mean, for example, Callum Smith, I like to see him, fight Canelo. Obviously there's a situation going on here between Joe Gallagher and Eddie Hearn. I don't know if that might be an issue. I don't think it will be, especially when it comes to Canelo. You come down to middleweight, for example, you got the Charlo fight. I'd love to see that fight actually, to see how good Charlo is actually. We'll forget about Golovkin just now. We'll forget about Andrade because they're on dead zone. But if you come down to middleweight, and that, you then go like see your guys like say your Munguia, Williams and stuff. I like to see Lee Williams fight. See how he gets on there. But I think the fights that needs to be happening actually is probably. I need to see probably at 168 actually. I really don't know as well. I mean, okay, the Kovalev fight was maybe a one-off at 175. Now, if he's wanting to go to 175, that's where I'd love to see him fight. It might just be a step too far for him, actually, to be honest with you. But I think 160 would be where it's going to happen. So Plant, Smith, and I mean, Benavidez. Who else you got there? Is he fought Jacobs? No, I don't think he's fought Jacobs yet.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
fought
been-
Jacobs. I don't want to see that again. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to see that, man. John Ryder's there. He seemed got a chance and stuff, but Eddie seems to be, this situation he's got going on with Joe Gallagher just now, that just freezing out fighters and stuff like Callum Johnson, for example. It's just disgraceful. But as I say, it's good to see him back. Hopefully the situation has now been resolved. I mean, when I seen the news and that, I'm thinking to myself, there's going to be repercussions of this, because you hate the manager coming out and stuff. I go back to what happened with Ricky Burns, for example, when he left my Frank wanted to go to Eddie Hearn. Eddie came out and says there was absolutely no issues here. We've got lawyers check the contracts and stuff. And what happened? Ricky had to actually declare bankruptcy and put all his assets into his wife's name. So hopefully nothing like that comes to pass and that everything gets free and cleared. But it'll be interesting actually for Golden Boy what happens with the business, because everybody remembers Golden Boy was Canelo, and Canelo was Golden Boy because he was basically the only person keeping him in the black, so to speak. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Golden Boy, because obviously they have got a lot of good prospects, young prospects like Ortiz, for example.
Ryan Garcia as well. I think we just lost Andy towards the end of it there. We'll try and get him back on as soon as we can. Rapping Rob Kelly, Canelo wants to fight before the year's out. I've been with you. I'm hoping not mischaracterising you here, saying that I think DAZN's struggling like hell, and I don't know why they're expanding into all these regions, but this could be the boost, the shot in the arm they need, because Canelo has made it clear, Rob, that he's not going to fight Golovkin, which is the fight that DAZN wanted all along. So what the hell were they going to do with him? They've got a near $400 million weight off their shoulders here. This could be the saving of DAZN. I'm sure John Skipper is delighted.
I don't know. I think the writing's on the wall for DAZN in the boxing world. Certainly, without Canelo, he was the main draw. That's how they got Golovkin, who's going to look increasingly frustrated now, like he's wasted his last couple of fights. Even though I'm sure he'll still get the money, or will he, if DAZN falls. So Canelo's suing for the $278 million. He's got enough money in the bank as it is. Whether he'll get that money or not remains to be seen. How they would even pay it, I don't know. How they were going to pay it in the first place, I never knew. I just thought that was a model that was good in theory, because I like I said a million times, I would be 100% down with a streaming service if I thought I was going to see good fights all the time with $10 a month. I'd be all over that for the HD stream that you could watch on your phone or whatever, mirror to the TV, no problem. But the problem was the matchups, and we just haven't seen the matchups on DAZN. The wheels came off the Joshua thing. Tyson Fury's on ESPN. It's you were looking for Canelo to be the breakout star, but he doesn't seem to have an opponent. So I think if he goes free agent or fight by fight deals with the PBC, that'll be the move to make for him with the Charlos there. Like, I think that's only what's out there in terms of putting asses in seats at the moment for him. Like, proverbially, of course, with the COVID. But if you're going to talk pay-per-view money, you have to have a dance partner now if you're Canelo, especially if you want to see return on investment when there's no gates involved. So he's made a smart move, I think, to get out while the going's good. Obviously Oscar's seen the writing on the wall for this, because he's been plotting moves to have his own comeback fight and that, so he knows the Golden Boy, DAZN honeymoon is over, and Canelo's on to bigger and better things, and Canelo can do what he wants now, really. He's been picking his opponents himself since the Floyd fight, really. Who he's going to fight, when he's going to fight him, what weight he's going to fight him at. He knows he's the number one guy in the sport. He's the number one pound for pound guy in the sport in a lot of people's minds, and he can do what he wants. But it's important for fans of the sport that Canelo has big fights and exciting dance partners. Paramount, I'd say, Steve. Even
paramount indeed. Ozzy, is this the best thing for boxing, that Canelo's free as a bird? Because he seems to be going for legacy fights. He gets paid pretty well anyway. But is this the best for boxing, do you think?
Agree, mate, yeah. And fair play to the guy as well. Look, if he wants legacy fights, go and do it. He doesn't need to be locked into any contracts. If he wants to go and fight, the best, then excellent. That can only be a good thing. I don't really care what network he fights on. Put him on the BBC, ITV, Channel 5, Babe Station, whatever. If he's fighting fucking good fighters, no one cares what channel it's on. I mean, there's talk that, look, DAZN have come out and have said, yeah, fine. I think secretly, naturally, they'll be disappointed, but they'll also be really pleased. The money they committed to him was a fortune, and the state DAZN are in at the moment, they don't want to be chucking out, like tens of millions of dollars, for like substandard opponents. I mean, we saw the people who, who they compared, what they're classed as, like premium opponents. And one of them was like a UFC fighter. So it showed what sort of market, they were in for. And that was to try and lure in, like crossover, casual type of fans. Canelo's gone. He's washed his hands of it. Caleb Plant is the rumoured fight for December. That's a hell of a fight and one that I'll definitely watch and is interesting. And I certainly think Plant can cause some problems as well. I think that's a great fight. And if Canelo wants to fight the best, good luck to him. And it's what, fingers crossed, he leads an example to other fighters in the industry. Because look, he said he's fucked his TV deal off. He's fucked his promoter off. He doesn't need a promoter. He sells himself. Golden Boy just, take care of logistics. But he can pay a team to do that. And yeah, good luck to him. It's the best thing that can happen to boxing, in my opinion, providing nothing happened. There is no fallback. But when DAZN have come out and said, yes, we're fine. Golden Boy have come out, wished him well. There should be no fallback legally on this sort of thing for me.
Good stuff, Ozzy. Canelo moves onwards and upwards, as do we. Thunder's Production says, cool podcast with good boxing conversations. I subbed. That could be a troll comment, but who knows? One of those bots. Thanks anyway. Hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Don't if you don't want to. Jim McDonald says, DAZN are just interested in freak shows to attract flocks of mongs. It's quite harsh from Jim, but I think he's actually quite bang on the money there. Andy's left us. Thanks for coming on, Andy. Had issues to deal with tonight. So fair play to him for coming on for as long as he did in his current location. Wrapping up, Kelly, Ozzy Smith is still with me, Steve. Bellew of the Weeks are coming up very shortly. Then we will be out of here for episode 398. Before we do so, Rob, next week, big fight. We were talking about this recently. I think it's due to go up at some point this week, next week, who knows. Kell Brook against Terence Crawford. Is Kell Brook a boxing underachiever? That's what we were talking about. He won't be an underachiever, Rob, if he gets the job done on the 14th of November against Terence Crawford. What chance do you give him of pulling off the upset?
No chance. Absolutely no chance. Although I think he'll do better in the fight than most people are expecting. I think he'll have moments in the fight where he's in the fight. Just by the nature of the way Crawford starts and that, I think Kell Brook could look like the old Kell Brook in patches early. But I think when Crawford puts the foot on the gas, he'll break him down. Vicious to the body. I don't know, he looks in great nick, Kell. I don't know what the tested situation is, coincidentally. Not me, but he does look in very, very good shape. But the fact that this guy has been up at 54, inactive. Last fight of 47 was Spence, where he got stopped 3 years ago. It's a kind of a no-win for boxing one, because if Crawford doesn't do the business similarly to Haney against Gamboa, if Crawford doesn't go in and fucking smash this version of Kell Brook up off the back of beating Amir Khan, and it's his ESPN run with Bob Arum at 47 is kind of shameful compared to where the regard he's held within the sport, because he is fucking brilliant, man. Terence Crawford, if you like boxing and you don't like watching Terence Crawford, there's something wrong with you, because he can just do a little bit of everything, and he's got the nasty side to him in the ring. He wants to smoke with anyone, but this Arum contract is killing him, man, and this is just epitomized by this fight that's being made. Like, Kell Brook to the man in the street is washed. He's not a name anymore. It's a bad look for Crawford no matter what. Because if he doesn't just completely ice him, KO the air kind of thing, and definitively bash him up, what does it say about Crawford then at 147? The PBC upper hand is strong, and Crawford needs fights, man. He needs to be looking past Brook. Whether that'll help Brook in the fight, I don't know. I still can't see. Like I said, I can't see him doing anything by a few flashes here and there. But not a great one for the sport. As much as I love Terence Crawford, this is not a good fight. And it's not really forgivable after Amir Khan either. He needs big fights, Crawford. Who's holding him up? I don't know. But whatever the outcome is, it's not happening. So he needs to get some names on the record of 47 and pronto.
Well said, wrapping up, Kelly. I'm going to jump in with something that just came to me, actually. Whenever we're talking about pound for pound conversations, obviously Crawford's the man at the moment. But if you wanted to be a bit of a nuisance like me, you can make an argument. Like, if you go, I don't know how you assess pound for pound, Rob. People have different criteria. You could say, is it their whole career? Is it what they've done lately? Well, if it's their whole career, if you put Terence Crawford against Manny Pacquiao, then obviously Pacquiao is higher than Crawford in the pound for pound ratings. But if you look at their what have you done for me lately, their most recent fights, then obviously Crawford would be higher than Pacquiao in the pound for pound ratings. But would he? Let's have a look at their last 6 fights, shall we, Rob? Starting with Crawford. This is his last 6 fights, right? Felix Diaz, Julius Indongo, Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez, Amir Khan, and Igis Kavalowskis. I might have named 7 there, but let's stick to the 6. Let's have a look at Manny Pacquiao's last 6 fights, shall we? Win over Timothy Bradley, win over Jesse Vargas, controversial loss to Jeff Horn, win over Lucas Matisse, win over Adrian Broner, and win over Keith Thurman. Let's get Pacquiao ahead of Crawford in those pound for pound, baby.
Yeah, you're making a great point. It's hard to argue against. I suppose I always looked at the pound for pound like the eye test. Who's the most dominant guy? I suppose you can say for Crawford, he's cleaned out 2 divisions, won a title in a third in his first fight at the weight, but from then it's been a shit show. Like Benavidez, Khan and Kavalowskis, man, like as good as he is, and as good as he is to watch, that's a poor run. Like, and to be ending it with Kell Brook. I mean, it's obviously not his fault. Like, it's this situation with Arum and Uncle Al is the puppet master in the welterweight division. But what a pity it is to see fucking Crawford be the one suffer. And I think this is suffering. This is a no-win fight for him. Make no mistake about it. Imagine Kell Brook was to beat Terence Crawford now. What a waste that would have been like. But can't see it happening. But you know what I'm getting at, like.
Absolutely. I'll move on to Ozzy. My disdain for Crawford is out of pure frustration. I just want to see him fight the best guys, including Errol Spence. Is he too comfortable with Top Rank, like Green Machine says? Should he have moved across the road to the PBC? That's where all the fighters are. He must be too comfortable. He re-signed with them. This guy has immense talent. I love watching him, but he's in, at the moment, the peak of his career, fighting against these no marks. I've now gone in on Crawford before, and people say, someone said to me on Twitter, oh, you've got an agenda against him, like as if I sit all week, like trying to work all these little agendas against him. I don't give a shit about having an agenda or anything. It doesn't say to me that this is a guy who's living up to his peak potential, and I am frustrated as hell with Crawford. There's no way he's top pound for pound for me, and that is an indictment on him, Arum, ESPN, Top Rank, whoever it is. Someone has to take the blame for this. Anyway, Ozzy, rant over. Back to Crawford against Brook. I think for the first 6 rounds, Brook might give him a little bit of trouble with the overhand right, but it'll catch up on him. Crawford will get rid of him later on in the fight, I believe.
Yeah, I think Crawford will get rid of him. Naturally, I know it's not all about shape type of thing, but I saw a picture of Kell Brook and fuck me, it's the best he's looked in ages. But the one thing is, it just stinks of a bit of a cash and grab, doesn't it? He's no promoter. He's ditched Dominic Ingle. I think Ryan Rhodes is involved in his corner type of thing, who he's really friendly with. But maybe Brook's just going into it, like no pressure. He's just thinking, right, let's go type of thing. He's certainly got, we've always said about Kell Brook, he's a huge talent. And whilst he's achieved everything you can in the sport, we somewhat think he's underachieved because he could have gone on to do more, won a world title at 154, probably unified at 147. And Kell Brook will be Terence Crawford's best win at 147 for me. I think he's better than Horn, Benavidez, Khan, Kavalowskis, pretty comfortably. But Rob's right, it doesn't do anything for him. And imagine he does get beat, Crawford. You'll look back and you'll just think, wow, like all those opponents. And look, Arum's one of the best in the business, but you can ultimately say at 147 he's failed to produce for Terence Crawford. He's not got him that big fight. Why they've not tried to make that Pacquiao fight, I do not know. They've talked up about now that if Crawford beats Brook, Pacquiao will be next. We've heard that before. I mean, Sean Porter, why is he not going in with these sort of guys? Keith Thurman again. It is frustrating. And look, Crawford's not getting any younger now. He's 33, and you don't want to see him, lose. He gets beaten because it becomes, too late in the day when he gets the bigger fights. You don't want to see that whatsoever. So it's one of them. He could have fought a lot worse. Let's remember, we're in, this middle of this pandemic. He could have fought a hell of a lot worse. Some of the stuff we've seen, it could have been any sort of trash. Kell Brook's by no means the worst opponent that could have been selected. However, again, it's not the best fight for Crawford. But if he fights Kell Brook, wins, and then goes into 2021 with a big fight, for example, against Manny Pacquiao, and then looks to fight, the likes of Spence or someone like Porter, Mikey Garcia, whoever, Thurman, then I think we'll more than accept that as well. What I think we'll see is we'll see Terence Crawford next year against the winner of Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez. And I think that said fighter who wins and unifies the 140-pound division will jump straight up to 147 and will fight Crawford, in my opinion. And I think Crawford against Taylor, that's a great fight. That is an excellent fight. And that's probably bigger than some of the ones that could be made at 147. That's a massive fight. And one that, Taylor's, he's destroying everything at 147, at 140 at the moment. So that'd be a huge, huge fight, and one that I definitely want to see.
Yeah, the boys in the chat are talking about Crawford Postol. Postol is a good win. I wouldn't say it was an underrated win. I think Postol is an excellent win for Crawford, probably the best of his career. But if he's top number one, pound for pound, best fighter in the world, as some people project, then he should be beating people like Postol. Postol's lost to Ramirez and Taylor as well since then. I know he got the win first. And like I said, I'm not just trying to shit on Crawford, but Pacquiao in his last fight beat Keith Thurman. 29-0 Keith Thurman, who had wins over Garcia and Porter. Pacquiao beat him. So you're looking at Thurman. That's just Pacquiao's last win against Postol, Crawford's best win. It doesn't stack up. It doesn't add up to me, man. There's no logic to it. Crawford's a good fighter, but he's not beating anybody. He's wasting away, and he needs better opponents for me. Anyway, that's probably not the last I'm going to say about it. But it's the last I'm going to say about it tonight. The chat seemed to agree with me, so that's always a bonus. Rob and Ozzy are here for episode 398. Let's move on to Bellew of the weeks, then, shall we? I've uploaded them just in time. Is it going to be a weak week, a strong week? Let's play the little tune, shall we? Where's Tony? Everybody seemed to enjoy this last week. Got a little copyright issue for it, but who cares? Let's get stuck in.
You and this boxing asylum, whatever you're called, right? You see, you must be the most bored man on planet Earth, because what you do is you sit and talk about what the fuck I do. Remember this, right? What you talk about, I do. I do it. You talk about it. I do it. So that gives me the right to say whatever I want about what I do. It doesn't give you the right because you don't do it. Now, if you show me a video of you doing it and doing it at the level I do it at, then maybe you can have a say. But remember this. I fight, you watch. It's that simple. That's all it's about. I fight, you watch. No one gives a shit about what you say or what you do, but they give a shit about me because I fight. I don't watch. Simple as that. Your podcast isn't worth a carrot. I don't give a shit what you say, what you do. If you've got something to say to me, I'm not hard to find. I'm usually on the front row at boxing events. Come and say hello, or come and say to me what you'd say to me on your daft podcast. But remember this, I get more views with a fart than what you get with a 2-hour podcast. On that
note... Shout out to Tone there. Boys enjoying that in the chat. High Guard Plodder says, Big Tone has a point, to be fair. To a degree, he does have a point, but you see this whole I fight and you can only have opinion if you fight. That's okay then. So how does the world go around with the sporting world? If people aren't writing about boxing, talking about boxing on Talk Sport, buying pay-per-view, sitting at home, going to the fights whenever you're allowed to and buying tickets, all these people would be eliminated under Tone's criteria. He wouldn't be able to sit and talk about Everton Football Club under his criteria. He's there shitting on these Everton players. He's never played the Premier League in his life. He's talking about horse racing. He's never been a horse. I've never seen him ridden along a furlong. Not a furlough, whatever you call it, as long as I've ever... You know what I mean? So what's he talking about? What do you think, Ozzy? You think I'm being a bit too harsh on the main man himself in the Bellew of the Week segment here? Or do you think he should just shut the hell up?
Not at all, no. It's an opinion that just doesn't have any logic to me. If you've not operated at that level, you don't deserve to have an opinion. Well... For example, and unless you've got like the likes of Mike Atherton, who writes for one of the newspapers, who used to be a Test match cricketer, he's one of the only journalists that can comment on cricket. And I've always said some of the opinions. Look at some of the Sky pundits' opinions that we get. Dave Caldwell called a Chisora win last week against Alexander Usyk. Dave Caldwell's an ex-pro. So that basically, according to Bellew, he knows more about the sport than we do. Fine, he may well do technically and stuff like that. He then admits after it he was emotionally drawn into the fight, and he then scored it to Chisora type of thing. Hey, has put some. Cal Froch has put in some horrendous cards as well. The amount of shite we see from boxers calling it wrong, and they go, well, I know more about you. Well, clearly not. Clearly fucking not. And it's like it for everything. Like you summed it up right. He's a big Everton fan. No, sorry, Tony, you can't support Everton. Or if you do, you can't say a word. Why's that? You've never been a pro footballer. You may have had a kickabout, on the AstroTurf, five-a-side with your mates type of thing. But you've never,
I love it.
You've never operated at a pro level. So back off. Back off. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work whatsoever. Look, if we were trying to be, be like technical and say they should do this, this, and this, I would kind of understand it. But it's very rare, we come in with stuff like that. And look, everybody's got an opinion. You don't have to agree with it. And if we sat here every week sucking up to Tony Bellew and praising him, I've no doubt he'd absolutely buzz off it, and he wouldn't be saying, stop praising me. Stop praising me. You've never boxed. You can't praise me. He'd absolutely love it.
Hey, one of the listeners sent me one in and said, did you hear the Trish Dixon podcast? He said, all the boxing stuff, giving him his intro, and then he says he appeared in the Creed movies, lists off about 3 reality shows that he's done, and goes, and of course his work on A League of Their Own with James Corden. And then he goes, I've never asked him to do the podcast, as I know Tony doesn't really want to be put out there. I don't think he was taking the piss. Then Bellew in the interview goes, after I retired, no one heard nothing from me for 12 months. 12 months of nothing. I laid low. Laid low. He was back on Sky within a month, your man says. So I said I give him a shout out, like I mentioned that one on the pod. Tony, he couldn't be any more of a parody of himself if he fucking tried, man. I think sometimes he just does this shit to be kept on Bellew of the week or something. Like, he just cannot shut the fuck up, man. He'll say anything. As soon as they put the camera on the face, all sense goes out the window and he just starts talking absolute balderdash. Like, he's fucking, but he's brilliant entertainment. I give him that much, man. And he's nearly as good out of the ring as he is during his career. Happy to watch him on Catchphrase rather than watch the fucking Over McKenzie first fight again.
Yeah, High God Plodder says who or what was he reacting to anyway? Here, if you hear at the beginning, he goes, see you, this boxing asylum. It was about 5 or 6 years ago, whenever the Bellew of the Week was coming to fruition or just coming into play, I can't remember. Coogan actually asked him about it on an IFL video, and he was trying to explain it to Tony. Tony wasn't quite getting it, and then he turns to the camera and has that rant that you heard there now. It's out there on one of the IFL videos, so that's what it was. A few people were confused about that. Shout out to Tony. Anyway, Bellew of the Week for 398. Let's get on with
Adam Smido-Smith issued a response to Tony Bellew as well, in response to the comments made on IFL TV. So if you search Adam Smith Boxing Asylum on YouTube, you can see his official response where he's working out the bag in his garage. So the asylum did not go down without a fight. I think it's fair to say.
Smido fighting back. Not sure about the Adonis Stevenson, Mr. Plodder. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's move on to the Bellew of the Weeks then. Go ahead, Rob.
I'd love to see that. Smido versus Bellew. I'd like to see that. I'd watch that one.
Absolutely. Bit of in-play betting for you. Good old spin. Yeah, Cougar, it's called the Tony Bellew Talks Podcast Critics. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's out there somewhere. It might be on our channel. Actually, go and search it out. Michael Benson tweeting out ahead of his fight with Yuriorkis Gamboa tonight. The WBC awarded Devin Haney a second belt. He was made champion in recess due to injury and then reinstated to be champion for a second time. Declan Graffin, Bellew of the Week for this shit. No shame at all. Shout out the WBC, having a great time over there.
They did not do that.
They did, yeah. There's a video of it.
Oh, man. Brilliant.
Good old WBC. The Bat Boxer was calling the Povetkin knockout of Dillian Whyte a lucky punch. Lucky as in if Dillian had just kept that right hand up at the time, he would have won. Hence, Povetkin got lucky. Sean Stevo says, and if David Price had slipped Povetkin's shots and not got knocked out, stood up, he would have beaten him too. Yeah, Bat Boxer, I think, was on one there. He was playing us all for a fool. And the Sheikah has been nominated by McKenna, talking about Christopher Lovejoy's profile in comparison to Michael Hunter. I'm just saying he's not a big name, as you're suggesting, in the UK or anywhere. He needs to do a better job of self-promoting himself, talking about Hunter. Crazy as it sounds, I think Lovejoy has a bigger UK audience than Hunter. It's the truth. Well, he's certainly bigger, Aussie, in the UK. Lovejoy, when he came over, he's got the bigger audience than Michael Hunter. The UK people can't get enough of Lovejoy. Plenty to go around.
I saw this. What a load of rubbish. A guy who got his 5 minutes of fame because he was fighting Dave Allen and then never got in the ring with Dave Allen. Now has a bigger profile than Michael Hunter. Utter trash.
Good on Ashika getting thrown in there. A nomination for Gervonta Davis, reportedly involved in a hit-and-run accident in South Baltimore. He wasn't involved in Leo Santa Cruz, I don't think. Per the CBS Baltimore reporter, he's going the same way as AB, and he's not here to revel, unfortunately, in the misery. It'd be a shame if Davis goes the same way as Broner, but you never know. Need to get him out of the hood. Captain Chunk has nominated Tara Nesdin, talking about Eddie's book, Relentless. Go and get it in Amazon. Jarrett has nominated Desla. Dillian Whyte is definitely worthy of a fight with Fury. Not sure why Frank wouldn't want to make it. Yeah, I can't think myself either, to be honest. Lukey Boxing. What is this hashtag Bellew of the week that some people tag on my timeline? I'll tell you what, Lukey's on one lately. He knows. He's getting nominated on purpose every week for talking shit, Rob.
Yeah, I found it funny that last week we were praising Gervonta Davis and all giving out our great hope that he holds up and relishes in the biggest moment of his career, and a week later
2 days
South Baltimore in a hit and run. Yeah, I think we know how this story's going to fucking end, unfortunately. Fuck me.
Good old Gervonta. Asian Boxing is nominated I Hate Mike Ashley. Hands down the best fighter of his generation. Talking about Devin Haney, would love to see him and Floyd fight. I know it might not have been the most exciting fight, but technically it would have been unreal. I think someone's being brainwashed by the cult of Hearn there. Callum Johnson says, I'm open to 168 or 175. Canelo versus you would be on fire, says Lewis. David Wombwell says, Canelo going nowhere near Callum. Callum ends him in 3 to 4 rounds. Bad style for Canelo. Callum hits too hard. Callum versus Ryder, Aussie, would be a good fight to blow the cobwebs off.
I don't know where these people come from. I honestly don't. But the epitome of Sky, like maggots, they buzz off all the hype and things like that. To have the disrespect and say, hey, Callum Johnson against John Ryder, John would be a warm-up opponent. But then only to go on and say, fucking Callum Johnson ends Canelo in 3 to 4 rounds because it's a bad style. What a load of rubbish. I like Callum Johnson as well. I think he's a good fighter, and I think it's a disgrace, the situation he's in. I really do feel for him. But David, is it Wombwell or Wombwell?
Oh, Wombwell, yeah.
Because you ain't got a clue.
Maybe he didn't come out the womb well himself.
Stick him back in. Oh dear. Yeah, that reminded me of that fellow who said before the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight, McGregor shouldn't have jumped straight in with Floyd. He should have fought Terence Crawford in a tune-up first. I can't remember who that was, but that was a good one.
Yeah. Oh,
David
shit.
Almond throwing in another one there for Jason Souza. I knew they was taking this, but all I wanted is to be world champion. I did that. I'm from the hood, wasn't educated in the world of boxing. It's okay, 30% trainer, 30% co-promotion. I am going to educate myself now. Yeah, Bellew of the week for the people who are fucking over Sousa, man. He's been badly treated in the world of boxing. He needs to sign up with Don King. Don will sort you out there. Ball versus Guianini, as previewed on this podcast earlier. Jack Brown's getting stuck in. He's enjoying it. Should get him on next week. God damn, Eddie, you couldn't deliver Dillian Whyte a title shot in how many years? Rachel wins a tear-up against fit for a year 11 scrap, and she could be a world champion. Ted Barrett, friend of the pod. Shout out to Ted, nominating him for that one. Adrian Broner sent to jail for contempt of court. Damien Street nominating that one. Quite a few people, by the way, sent in the Gervonta Davis one, so shout out to all of them. David Alman nominating O'Hara Davis. I think he's a bit of a troll, Davis, isn't he? Just learned how to pump air into my car tyre. It costs 50p, so why do the car people always charge me a $5 to do it? Eddie's book is back doing the rounds again. Billy the Fish. 12 rounds to success are round 1 to 11, down to having a wealthy dad with a behemoth of a business. Rich's Boxing says, everyone apparently assumes that, can't read this, the screen's too light, and the book covers this off. Eddie was given tough love as a kid and no handouts. Ian McKenzie nominating for that one. And then finally, William
Who would
McNamara.
fucking write that though? Like, who would go to the trouble of writing that? Like, defending anyone? Who you don't know? His dad was very strict on him, actually.
You'd find that out, Rob, if you read Relentless, 12 Rounds to Success.
Well, I'm willing to do it for Patreon. If he's want to throw a few quid in there, he'll have me read the audiobook for Eddie Hearn. I read it to Smitho at night, man. He'll love it. After
a couple of cans of cider, Rob. Out in the out in the field, you should read it with the windows.
On the old microphone, yeah. I'll read it like that. It sounds better.
Eddie was born in 1977. Oh, good old Rob. Love having Rob with us.
That would just me blowing a fuse. It wouldn't be the storm. It would be me blowing a fuse for eating the fucking thing.
Oh, dear. Where's the last one? Let's bring it up, shall we? Michael Montero, Bilal said, Crawford fought an undefeated champion in his prime. He's not taking the Mayweather route. Michael Montero says, great point. Postol is the type of guy Floyd avoided for much of his career. Hashtag Crawford Postol. Oh, William McNamara nominated him for that one. Better late than never. Let's get some boxing hardcore knowledge on the go. Adam Smith with us. Coming to you shortly, Smitho. We're on Bellew of the Week at the moment. Let's see if the boys have any nominations. Oh, yeah, Ozzy. That's absolutely right, Ozzy. I do apologise. I forgot to send them in to myself. Let's see if I can. I'll tell you what, I'll go around the lads while I try and send these pictures to myself. I forgot all about them. And see if they've got any nominations. First of all, Rob, do you have anything for us this week?
No, just Devin Haney and his dad for trying to say that he's the real champion because they gave Teofimo the franchise belt. So he's not the real champion who beat Vasily Lomachenko. It's Devin Haney who beat 36-year-old Yoriokas Gamboa. And champion in recess.
Any from you, Ozzy? I'm
champion
just
in recess as well.
Champion in recess.
Reinstated champion of recess as well. Fuck me.
And I'm starting to run out of all these these titles that Devin Haney's claiming. Anything from you, Ozzy, on the Bellew of the Week?
No, but while Smitho's here, I want to ask him the question about the betting market. You know, from what the question was before about the commentators' influence play stuff. Yeah. Adam Smith, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hang on, Smitho. I'll see if I can bring it up, Ozzy, and then he can see it directly. Let me see if we can get this.
Yeah.
Right, just uploading it. Okay, Smitho, on the screen, just while I bring up these photos, have a look. Can you see the screen, Smitho, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, respond to that then, dude.
So, do I think that they're purposely calling it wrong to influence the in-play betting? The short answer to that is no. The betting on boxing is minuscule compared to the likes of football and horse racing in this country. Betting on boxing is minuscule. All you have to do is look on Betfair for any fight that's not a proper, AJ or White or, someone with a big name like that. For anyone who it's not like that, you just look on Betfair and there's pennies in there. So no, there's not enough money in that to even make that a theory. But to flip the question a little bit, does the Sky commentary have influence on the odds? Yes, from time to time it does. So there will be not as much as it used to be, but now there will be some bookmakers will have a dedicated boxing trader who will sit there, watch the fight, and change the odds for the live betting. And some of the and as people like me or I admit that I'm sometimes swayed by the commentary, as we all have been at some stage in our life, and that's just judging it. So it's the same for us sitting at home trying to judge it on our little scorecard. It's the same for a boxing odds compiler sitting there in London or wherever they sit, Gibraltar, and doing the odds themselves and updating it for their particular website. But as time's gone on, what kind of happens now is that multiple bookmakers across the industry will get the same odds from one place. So they kind of outsource it, if you like, because I think, as I might have mentioned before, there's no bookmaker in the country that takes enough money on boxing to be adequate for someone to be a full-time employee for boxing. You wouldn't get 40 hours of work out of them a week because there's not enough boxing and there's not enough money taken on it. So where I've worked before, for example, the lad who looks after greyhounds also does the boxing because there's simply not enough work to have a full-time boxing trader. So what they do now with a lot of stuff is outsource it. So there'll be someone in Europe, one of the big companies will provide odds for events, any sporting event, including boxing, and we'll send that to the bookmaker, and then it just populates. So they just outsource it, and they don't have to employ someone full time. That's why, I mean, you can log on to Sky Bet now, and you might see, Filipino in-play football. Do you reckon Sky Bet have got someone sitting in the Philippines doing that game? No, absolutely not. They get that from a third party. So that's how they can do that. But no, the short answer is no, they're not doing it to influence the betting markets, because there simply wouldn't be enough for the conspiracy to make money. But what they do say, I have seen influence the odds, but I certainly wouldn't suggest that they are profiteering from their ridiculous and biased commentaries.
Lovely jubbly. Adam Smith jumping in right at the end there just to add a clarification. Marty Smith has thrown me one here. John McCallum before the Tishenko fight, which I actually forgot to watch. I know it was on Box Nation on Saturday afternoon. I'm a bit jet lagged, but I'm here to knock out your boy. Overweight middleweight against an Olympic heavyweight gold medalist, saying that shite is Bellew of the week. I think he got ended in the second round. Do you want to give us a bit of background on this one then, Ozzy? I've got the photos uploaded about the artist guy. Just explain to the listeners what's going on, and then I shall reveal these photographs if I dare.
Yeah, so the artist will be well known to a lot of boxing fans. I think he's called Killian. Draws a lot of pictures, like really impressive pictures of Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, all sorts of boxers, and they're excellent pictures. And I think he's sold pictures, that go for a lot of money, particularly, like charity events, etc., things like that. Anyway, lockdown has clearly been messing with his head, and it's fair to say he's ditched boxing and gone for a more erotic approach, is the best way to describe it. But the pictures, which will go up on screen now, will reveal all. This is why he's nominated for Bellew of the Week.
So, Ozzy, you can't do any tactical analysis on the boxing, but any in-play analysis going on here? What's happening in picture one? Then give us the lowdown.
I just, mate, I always say pictures tell the story. No matter what you say, all right, pictures tell the story, and this one is
I think it'd be like fighting the southpaw. You want to make sure your right foot is on the inside. I think in that one.
He's circled round into play there, hasn't he, the big fella? He fairly got the jab going here. Good stiff jab. Just keeping at a fair distance. Yeah, maybe we should stick to boxing. I think the boys in the chat seem to be enjoying that. That's
a standing 8 count there.
Don't think we're going to have the ads on this week, Rob. No YouTube AdSense.
No, I can't. If you can't get a super chat for that, you leave it so.
Yeah, shout out to Matthew, Russell, and Dave from Boxing's First for super chats. Not for anything to do with those photos. Chris Killian Art. That's a strong runner. So who we're going to go for? There was one earlier that made me laugh. I'm just going to try and flick through them. It wasn't that guy. Maybe Devin Haney, actually, Rob. Who are you going for this week? Could be Haney with the WBC. Could be Chris Killian Art. There were quite a few casuals thrown in. Who's getting the vote this week, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to top. I mean, Bellew gets it every week, but I think Chris is going to be hard to top there. If I was the police, I'd be going to his house now. I'd see where this is going early in the story. If I was the cops there, maybe get Tony Bellew on the case. He's sorted out.
Okay, who'd you go for there, Rob? It might have been my internet connection, but I slightly lost you towards the end.
Chris, the artist, the erotic artist.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Chris, the erotic artist for me. Did you see those snaps, Smido? Would that be the type of thing you'd be hanging on the living room wall?
No, not particularly, but I was going to vote for the fella who said Callum Johnson is all wrong for Canelo. Did he get a nomination?
Yeah, David Wombwell.
Yeah, that's who I'm voting for.
Shout out to him. One, I'm going to go for the artist as well, so that's going to be 2 for the artist. As Coogan's Waterbill says, this will be great for the iTunes listeners, or Apple Podcasts as it's called now. They'll have to come on over to the YouTube and have a good gander. Maybe I'll put it up on Twitter or something. Ozzy, who are you going for?
Oh, without a doubt, the erotic artist. His attention to detail is outstanding.
Absolutely. Got stuck straight into the pocket and never relented. Congratulations, Chris Killian Art. Is it Chris Killian or Chris Killian, Ozzy?
I've not a clue. I think it's Killian.
Used to play for Celtic. What you call it? There hasn't been this much eroticism in boxing since Malik Scott and Tyler Goodjohn's OnlyFans account. So we need more of that. Like, you know what I mean? Spice things up a bit.
Well done, Chris Killian. Congratulations. You are Bellew of the Week for episode 398. And that is where we shall leave it, gentlemen. Thank you for everyone for jumping on. Just before we do so, Smido, we talked about Kell Brook, Terence Crawford. Obviously, you're coming on to give your prediction. How do you see it going?
I think it'll be a Crawford massacre. I thought that from the get-go. But as always, I get drawn in the couple of weeks before the fights, and, I listen to the interviews and everything's going brilliant and the flying in camp and blah, blah, blah. They're going to do it. But I would like Kell Brook to do it, to win. Definitely, I'll be cheering Brook on if in fact I do end up watching it live, which is unlikely. But yeah, I'll be cheering him on. I think, and I've been a bit of a fan, if you like. I wouldn't say, well, maybe not a fan, but I've liked him. I've had a tendency to like Kell Brook throughout his career. He's been badly mismanaged. We've been over that many a times before. But yeah, I would like him to do it. But I think it adds up to. Basically no trainer, last throw of the dice, wrong weight. What they've been telling us, he's not effective at 147 for years, but yet he's fighting at 147. The omens aren't good. And so my initial thoughts was, Crawford would batter him and just break him and retire him. I personally didn't think we'd see Kell Brook in the ring ever again, so I'm going to be proven wrong there. I think Crawford is one of the only genuine killers left in boxing in 2020, to be honest. There's not that many left, but he is one of them, and I think he'll knock Kell Brook out. I hope I'm wrong.
Just before we finish, actually, Rob, this is breaking news to a point. Danny Robson just tweeted out there with a screenshot, Box Rec, which is quite an authority, so we can take it that this might be happening. Have Caleb Plant listed as Saul Canelo Alvarez, his opponent for the super middleweight titles on the 19th of December, Rob. That's interesting news.
A nice payday for Plant. Good style to give Canelo something different. He doesn't like guys really that move around the ring, but he's improved that much over the last few years, Mexican meat or not. You couldn't see Caleb Plant troubling him that much over 12 rounds. I think Canelo will get to him eventually on activity, but I watch it. I don't think it's the best dance partner, but it's probably a good dust him off the cobwebs, makeable fight where Caleb Plant will take what he's going to take for it. Like, I mean, he needs that fight, doesn't he? Like, where else is he going to fight? So, if you get the call to come fight Canelo, you're going to take it.
Probably going over old ground, but who's going to promote that?
Well, it'd probably be PBC, you'd think, wouldn't it? Which is interesting in itself, Smith.
Yeah. I mean, I've not really gone to the ins and outs of the old Canelo story, but I know it was in the news this week. Chaos, really. I mean, shame, really. I know he's been on the sidelines anyway through COVID, but he is genuinely the biggest star in the sport, particularly in America. He needs to have some sort of deal in place.
I'm sure he'll not be short of suitors. I like that Caleb Plant fight. I think Plant needs a big fight. Canelo could have been fighting a hell of a lot worse, considering some of the names. Remember, the likes of Jason Quigley and Gabe Rosado were being mentioned during the summer, so I'll be happy. I'll take the Caleb Plant fight. Yes, let's... Oh, what is this, Ozzy? We're giving a shout out to our friend, Mr. Killian here. It's Erotic Doodles on Instagram. You've subscribed, Ozzy. We don't have an Instagram page, unfortunately, but if you had a little nose around, a little sniff...
I've not, but I've been sent the page already off an avid listener who has found it. And yep, he's now Erotic Doodles by Killian. 4 pictures are on there, and no doubt there'll be more.
Absolutely. Erotic Doodles by Killian over on Instagram. Get stuck into it. Dread to think what you might find, but who knows? You might find us not on there. But next week, episode 399, we'll be back closing in on the big 400. Thanks to Ozzy Smith for jumping on. Adam Smido Smith as well, giving his knowledge and insight towards the end of the podcast. Rapping Rob Kelly as usual. Shout out to Andy Patterson for jumping on. And shout out to Dave, the hater low back. Hopefully you get well soon, friend. And to you all in the chat. Let's have a quick look through the chat, shall we? I'm not going to bother listing people out. I've been Steve Wellings. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the dislike button if you think we're shit. We'll catch you all again, same time, same place next week. Bye.